And good morning, 6 o'clock. It's Tuesday morning, November 11th, 2025. Happy Veterans Day and deep gratitude for all who served. We'll talk about that as part of the program coming up here, live from Lake Wissota here in Chippewa Falls. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Nice to have you along. We will also, of course, have the latest on the efforts to end the government shutdown, which not everybody necessarily wants to see in one way, shape, or form. Maybe it's a case of if people on both sides feel dissatisfied, maybe we're finding the middle ground. I don't know. We'll also have some thoughts on President Trump pardoning his co-conspirators in their attempted coup back in 2020. Of course, Democrats are debating what direction they go in from here, not just because of the way the shutdown's being handled, but frankly, all the election wins from 1 week ago. And so we will talk to congressional candidate Fred Clark up north here in the 7th District for some of his thoughts as he tries to put the 7th District back into Democratic hands for the first time in 16 years. We'll also talk to Ruth Conniff from the Wisconsin Examiner, who has some thoughts on where Democrats go after this and what the voters were trying to say. And we'll talk to Cam Stevenson from Courier Newsroom, live from the nation's capital, to get all the latest on ending the shutdown there as well. This all gets started at 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network. First, we'll jump into the news and see you in a bit.
On social media, no. Almost 700,000 Wisconsinites rely on SNAP. Here in the Badger State, the program's called Food Share. State officials want people to know their money is on their cards and can be used as normal right now, even with court cases in flux. Joanne Krulatz reports.
Retailers and grocery stores play an important role in ensuring Food Share members can access healthy, nutritious food to feed their families. The Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade and Consumer Protection, and the Wisconsin Department of Health Services remind Wisconsin businesses who have signed up for the Food Share program that Food Share recipients have had funding legally loaded onto their cards, and businesses cannot turn away members using Quest cards at registers. Food Share members receive benefits on a Quest card similar to a debit card that allows them to pay for food at any business that has agreed to participate in the program. Current federal guidance states that consumers may continue to redeem the existing balance issued to their Quest card at any authorized retailer. Any Wisconsinite who needs additional food or infant formula for their house or family can reach out to 211 for information and referrals to local services.
That's Joanne Krulatz reporting, and I'm Savannah Tomei-Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
The Packers lose to the Eagles. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports from Lambeau Field, where the Packers folded 10-7 to the Philadelphia Eagles. For a second week in a row, Green Bay's offense failed to generate enough points. Quarterback Jordan Love.
Got to get back to the drawing board. Same thing as last week, get back to the film session, try and find ways to figure out what we're not doing as well right now, what's kind of keeping us in a funk and not letting us kind of get into a rhythm.
Packers head coach Matt LaFleur asked if he's concerned about his future.
You don't have a long-term extension. With the way things have gone this season, do you think you're coaching for your job there?
I'm not. I'll leave that for everybody else to decide. I'll just focus on the day-to-day, and I feel like you're always coaching for everything in this league.
LaFleur said that center Elton Jenkins suffered a severe ankle injury that's, quote, not promising. NBA, the Bucks beat the Mavericks 116-114 in Dallas. They play the Hornets in Charlotte tomorrow night. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Between the lakes and beyond the headlines, 92.7 FM WMDX is where Wisconsin turns for real news and great conversation.
After a sprinkle or snow shower this morning, we will see the clouds gradually start to break up here through the day today, but it will stay chilly with a high in the low to mid 40s this afternoon. Tonight, mostly clear. We're going to drop into the low 30s. Tomorrow, sunshine returns with a high near 50. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Currently, it's 26.
Hey, Gordy, I gotta admit, these hearing aids from Madison Hearing Aid Center changed my life.
Mine too, John. I thought I needed subtitles to talk to my grandkids.
And these aren't those old giant clunkers we saw in the old days. It's got Bluetooth, it's rechargeable, the works.
Yeah, my phone connects straight to my ears. I'm basically a cyborg now.
Well, you just figured out texting last year, too.
Yeah, baby steps. But I did call Madison Hearing Aid Center, and you should too. 608-249-4077.
608-249-4077. Tell them John and Gordy sent you.
The Todd Albaugh Show.
If they want to close all the two-year campuses, which looks like where it's headed, they should just say it. So let's just be honest, Robin Voss and Devin LeMahieu on the Republican side. Let's be honest, Governor Tony Evers on the Democratic side, President Jay Rothman, and border regions. Let's have an open public discussion on the future of the Wisconsin idea. It at least deserves to die in the light of day.
Across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Thank you, Mr. Mathers. Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06. It is a Tuesday morning. It's November 11th, 2025. Another beautiful morning to have you here up north, live from Lake Wissota. From wherever you're spending your Tuesday morning, listening across the Civic Media Radio Network or watching us on social media, catching us later by podcast. Appreciate you getting your day going right here. I got a question for you. This question's for Parker Olson, who's also producing things here, so we may as well make it fully participatory. Did you take my advice last night and give yourself a good night's sleep? Or did you still think the Packers were going to figure out how to have a working offense later in the game? Parker Olson, how do you plead?
Minus about a minute and a half, guilty.
It took a minute and a half till you thought, okay, that's it. It's not happening. Okay.
It was the last minute and a half of that game.
Okay.
I was in. Yeah.
Look, I know the team found its groove against Pittsburgh a couple of weeks back after I went to bed, but since then there have been injuries and, frankly, a broken record kind of playbook that has led this offense into a very dark place. Listen to how Ryan Wood of the Green Bay Press-Gazette put it in the morning papers. On a night the defense mostly played at an elite level, the Green Bay Packers offense finds itself in full crisis mode after being undressed in front of a national audience against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Packers could hardly muster a drive. A drive, I add for emphasis. The Packers could hardly muster a drive in a 10-7 loss against a Philadelphia defense that frequently appeared to be playing with 15 players on the field despite having only the required 11. Yep. So some of us called it a night a little bit earlier, and I hope all the rest of you find time to get a nap a little later today. But I thought that was perfect because, yeah, there were times like their defense was just swarming. Ours wasn't bad either, but that offense, holy cow.
Yes, the defenses were very good last night. I think that there has to be something said, though, about the Green Bay play calling.
Mm-hmm.
I have largely been against the Matt LaFleur hate train. I have been fairly okay with him. But last night was just, and I get his hands are tied because of the offensive line isn't very healthy and the receivers are dropping like flies.
Right.
But my God, it was just so stupid. And to run out of shotgun on 4th and 1, Pat. I
know. Against the team that has taught you how to do it, this little thing called the tush push. I mean, you just power ahead, and they keep trying to go to Jacobs, and he's a workhorse, but he's not Barry Sanders. Okay.
No, and frankly, it really bothers me too because obviously the Packers absolutely wasted an incredible performance by their defense last night.
Yep.
But they also, and I don't think that anyone's is going to really pay any attention to this, that might have been the cleanest special teams game the Packers have had that I can remember.
True. Yeah.
There were so few. I don't remember any penalties, maybe one on special teams for the Packers. And yet, I'm still going to harp on the fire Rich Bisaccia train, though.
Okay.
Because for some reason, we still have McManus kicking when clearly Haversick is A, healthy, and B, has a better leg.
Yeah. You can't be afraid.
Up on 2 long field goals because
Yeah. Tony puts it very well on YouTube. Just an immensely frustrating game. It was. It was just, and we've been talking about it for the past week. Like, is this how the whole season's going to go? And clearly, based on this game, it is. Now, don't get me wrong. As a baseball fan, I like a good pitcher's duel. Some people do not like pitcher's duels. I do if they're both really good. It's frustrating to not see your hitters be able to hit, but at least if you know your pitcher's in the groove, you've always got a chance. And yeah, to that point, theoretically, the Packers offense would always have had a chance in this pitcher's duel of two great defenses, but you just saw they did not. They had little league hitters in there last night, it felt like. Roger puts on Facebook something I can't really say on the radio, but in Facebook he says, pardon my language, but Matt LaFleur's butt is definitely on the hot seat right now. There was one point to your frustration with LaFleur as a play caller where the guys up in the booth, what's their faces, Aikman and Buck, they were noting, and the camera went back to it a couple of times, while Green Bay was on defense, LaFleur was at a desk. He's at a desk with his little laptop, hunched over it, like your fifth grader trying to do their homework before the school bus comes. And it's like, don't you have somebody that can do this? But no, you're the play caller. So you're over there doing your homework behind the bench while your defense is out there. It was not a good look.
No, I believe Cheesehead TV, I think, tweeted that picture and said that this is the equivalent of doing scratch-offs.
Hoping to get lucky.
Rolling the dice, trying to find something.
Oh, it was.
God knows he can't find it.
It was It was just not working, and we got till Sunday noon to figure it out. And here's the thing: we're going up against the New York Giants, going out to the Meadowlands there, and the Giants just fired their head coach. So this will be the Giants' first game with an interim coach. Next Sunday, it's a noon game, and so I can already tell you that the Civic Media Radio Network will have coverage starting at 9 a.m. Anyway, be looking for that. So we've got some time, but you're not going to get people that healthy that quickly. You got to come up with some better plays and things like that. All right, well, coming up in 10 minutes, I'm going to have some thoughts on Veterans Day today because it is Veterans Day. And again, a happy Veterans Day and our deepest thanks and gratitude to everybody who has served our country. And it's got to be more than that. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. First, a reminder, you can reach us with your thoughts about the Packers or about Veterans Day or about the potential end to a government shutdown that I'll also be talking about in just a bit, or Donald Trump pardoning all of the co-conspirators who engaged in criminal acts, whether they wanted to or knew it or not, when it came to overturning the 2020 presidential election, or anything else on your mind. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. You can also use that Civic Media app to call us, to send us a text message, to record a little voice note that we might play, or put something in the comment sections of Facebook or YouTube where we stream the video of this show. Well, the audio too, but I mean, you can actually see us doing the show. At the Up North News Facebook and YouTube pages and the Civic Media Facebook and YouTube pages. Tony asks, rightly so, will the receivers actually catch the ball against the Giants? I mean, it's a fair question, and I get it's an offensive line issue. It's a Jordan Love decision-making issue, and much more. So we'll talk about that a little bit throughout the course of these 3 hours here. But we also have a bit of a focus on where Democrats go from here after the really good news of the election last week and the really less good news that a handful of Democrats were willing to work with Republicans to end the government shutdown. And I'm not going to, much like Parker talks about not wanting to jump right on board the train to fire LaFleur, I'm not jumping right on the train to say that this was not the worst case scenario. It's not a great look when Democrats are not united. You know, Republicans would say the same thing. It's not a great look. But if you're looking at it from a purely politically strategic point of view, you always knew going into this that you were up against people in the Republican Party who literally do not care if families go hungry. Literally do not care that you now have families, especially seniors, paying tens of thousands of dollars more per year for health insurance. And so they're now going to go uninsured. I promise you, they do not care. And there were quite a few of them who were never, ever going to give in, and they see a government shutdown as a net positive for them. It becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy that government doesn't work whenever they break it and cause it to shut down. The only way this was going to work was if public pressure on Republicans was so great that they finally said, this isn't working, the people are leaving us. And the people were leaving. It was shown at the ballot box last week. And yet enough Democrats said, well, but we don't want the airports to be all, blocked during the holidays. They're going to blame Democrats. No, they would have blamed Republicans if it would have kept going. But the question is, how much longer could you hold out? How much longer could you frankly sacrifice to prevent those skyrocketing health insurance costs? Well, the Senate is taking a series of votes now to get it all done, and then they're going to punt it over to the House. And again, keep in mind that all Democrats really got, the small group of Democrats that forced this issue, all they got was a promise by the Senate Republican leader to hold a vote sometime soon here, a standalone vote on bringing back the premium subsidies that made health insurance affordable under the Affordable Care Act. The House has not promised that in any way, shape, or form. And up until yesterday, Speaker Mike Johnson was saying, no, we're not going to have a vote at all. Yesterday, he said, well, we'll see. We're going to have a very deliberative process, he said, along those lines. So in that sense, in the sense of the health insurance costs going up, it really was a case of, Charlie Brown going to kick the football and Lucy pulling it away. Those health insurance prices are going to go up. I mean, even if Senate Republicans finally grow a conscience and say, you know what, we are going to bring back the premium subsidies, maybe just not to the full extent. And maybe House Republicans do the same, saying, wow, we got our butts handed to us in the election. We'd better not take these premium supports down to zero. Let's come up with a number. The old-fashioned way, how politicians used to do these things. They'd negotiate and find a level that works for most people. Even if all those things happen, the window is open right now for health insurance. People are facing prices right now, and they're making decisions not to be covered right now based on what the current prices are, and they are much higher than they were before. To which, Ron Johnson and all the others go, oh, you see, that's just proof that the Affordable Care Act wasn't working. No, it's proof the Affordable Care Act was working. That when our tax dollars are actually pooled together to help everybody afford health insurance, it helps everybody. And instead, they're still going with the pre-Obamacare lines about, well, we just need high-risk insurance pools, which was taking us to bankruptcy faster than anything else in this country, besides tax breaks for the very rich. They've learned nothing. And the thing that just still gets to me is after 15 years, they still have nothing in terms of a replacement, in terms of what are you going to do for people who are suffering from expensive health care? And you got concepts of a plan from the candidate for president, which was really telling. But the guy who had concepts of a plan for health care, who tried to overturn an election, who admitted he torpedoed bipartisan immigration reform, somehow got elected anyway, because I guess some people didn't like the way Kamala Harris laughed or something like that. And so we have all these challenges in front of us. And so we'll be talking in our 8 o'clock hour with Ruth Conniff of the Wisconsin Examiner, as well as in our 7 o'clock hour, candidate for Congress Fred Clark, on where Democrats go from here. Some thoughts on Veterans Day coming up from the heart of America's Up North, live from Lake Wissota. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
If you're not sure what others are saying in conversations because of loud background noise, why not call Madison Hearing Aid Center? 608-249-4077 is their number. They offer fast and flexible appointments. Talk to Jim or Sarah. They're helping people change their lives with better hearing. Get a free hearing test online at MadisonHearingAidCenter.com. That's MadisonHearingAidCenter.com, 4706 Cottage Grove Road in Madison. Tell them John and Gordy sent you.
Buying a home is a lot like eating pistachios. Some deals pop right open, some take a little effort, and some make you want to grab a hammer. That's why you need Aaron Weber Group. We do the heavy lifting so you don't break a nail or your sanity trying to crack into the housing market. We've got the perfect place where you can eat pistachios in every room. So don't shell out your life savings on a bad deal. Call Aaron Weber Group, powered by Compass, today. We'll get you into a home that's nothing but perfect.
There was a time when barbecue was perfect. A strong, reliable flavor that could be counted on. But then big manufacturers decided that barbecue needed to be zesty or spicy or sweeter or whatever. If you miss the good old days of great tasting barbecue, we'd like to introduce you to Grandpa's Barbecue. Made in small batches from Grandpa's original recipe. Buy yours online today at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
My name's John Driscoll, proud member of the Patriotic Millionaires. When I was CEO at CareCentrix, I doubled entry-level wages. The impact? Productivity went up, turnover went down, and the company was successful. When employees are off the clock, they're real consumers, the consumers that drive the economy with their spending. By paying employees a fair wage, we're actually helping out all of us in giving our economy the best chance to succeed. I'm John Driscoll. I'm a Patriotic Millionaire.
Tomorrow on the program, we will talk to Ellie Bordeaux from Up North News, who puts together our morning newsletter. Sign up for it at upnorthnewswi.com. We'll talk to Earl Ingram as well from Civic Media's What's Going On with Earl Ingram podcast and get his view of things from Milwaukee. That's all coming up tomorrow here on the program. All this talk about the Packers. I should note that the Bucs were winners last night. Giannis scored 15 of his 30 points in the fourth quarter. And Ryan Rollins put Milwaukee up for good with a layup with 18 seconds left. The Bucs rallied from a 13-point deficit to beat the Dallas Mavericks 116-114. Coming up next, Parker, big news. The Bucs are playing Charlotte. They're playing Wednesday at Charlotte, and then Friday they play Charlotte again here at home in the next round of the NBA Cup. I'm really trying to gin up excitement for this, and it's really not working.
Yeah, no, it's not the most exciting thing in the world.
It's the cup, the subtitle of which is, "Come on, guys! I know it's the regular season, but you got to try anyway." But that was too long to fit on a banner, right?
I was told that those stats don't matter as well. Like, they don't contribute to their season stats for the players, which is
really
insanely crazy. Like, that's so stupid.
Okay, I'm not going to get used to this thing, to being a part of things. Okay, it remains what it has been from the beginning, a source of mockery, and we're good with that at this program, as you know. Question for you: do you know someone who served our country in the military? Maybe you know a lot of someones who served our nation. This is our day to remind them of our gratitude. There are around 16 million American veterans all around us. That's about 6% of the adult population. There were nearly 25 million veterans about 20 years ago. But as our World War II and Vietnam veterans depart with honors, the majority of America's living veterans are now those who served in the Gulf War, in Afghanistan, and Iraq. And let this day not be one of performative gestures and cliches. This day deserves meaning. As the son of a soldier, I know that the sense of service lasts a lifetime. And frankly, so do our responsibilities as our veterans transition to new careers, deal with physical and mental health issues, and move into senior years that deserve care and respect. Now, sadly, some of the people who wave the flag most vehemently, especially around elections, and cry out to support our troops, seem to be the ones most likely to be AWOL when it comes time to pony up and keep our promises to our veterans. Not that this day is supposed to dwell on the political, but frankly, it shouldn't be political that we make sure to care for our veterans. There are some people who are very good at starting wars and sending our young men and women into harm's way, and then they ghost veterans when they're most in need and when they have earned a lifetime of service from us. So, veterans, thank you, but more than our thanks, we owe you a measure of respect that ebbs and flows more often than it should. I hope that we can rededicate ourselves to caring for our veterans at a level that displays true patriotism. They've served us, and we note every November 11th that now it's our turn. But instead, what we're facing in the nation's capital is a government shutdown, a government that has put big cuts into the VA health system, and then just frankly shut everything down. Not that this is the world's biggest surprise, because again, the record is clear on what this president has stood for and the party now that supports him all the way. They are all in, which makes you wonder, whatever happened to the party that loved talking about how it stood for law and order? But there hasn't been a peep of protest from Republicans about President Trump issuing pardons to the co-conspirators of his attempted coup in 2020. And they include several figures who played a role in Wisconsin's fake electors scheme. I would highly recommend Molly Beck's article in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel to tell you more, including about the Republicans from Wisconsin who were pardoned after signing paperwork that falsely claimed that they were the electors for Trump and that Trump won Wisconsin, and including former state Republican Party Chair Andrew Hitt and Bob Spindell, who is remarkably still sitting on the state elections board after being a fake elector as part of a conspiracy to overturn an election. Wisconsin attorneys Kenneth Chesbrough and Jim Troupis is a former Dane County judge, represented Donald Trump's campaign in the effort to get votes thrown out, get legally cast Wisconsin votes thrown out based on imaginary claims that were drawn up as part of a larger, more complex plot to stay in power despite what the voters said. That, boys and girls, is an attempted coup, and it is crazy that people keep trying to pretend that it wasn't. Now, the pardons that Trump issued to all of these folks and many more yesterday, excuse me, those pardons only apply to federal prosecution. There are no federal investigations going on right now, of course, because voters put the guy who tried to overthrow an election back into power. Fortunately, our system of democracy, while limping along, does have a mechanism for states to seek justice, and that's what's happening here, very, very slowly. Chesbrough and Troupis and former Trump aide Mike Roman are all on the pardon list, but they all face 11 felony charges in Wisconsin related to the plan as well. Reaction came from Law Forward President Jeff Mandel. That's the group that brought a civil lawsuit against the fake electors in Wisconsin. And Jeff Mandel said the pardons send, quote, an unmistakable message that this White House disdains democracy and will assist in word and in deed any effort, no matter how extreme and outrageous, to cling to power regardless of election results. And that's the key word there, regardless of election results. Not respecting the will of the voters is at the very heart of what people would call law and order. But again, not a peep of protest. In fact, nothing but loud endorsements from people like Ron Johnson, who are some of the most vocal at spreading falsehoods about the election. Thankfully, the cases still move forward at the state. I just hope we pick up the pace real soon. I have to change my tune on a tune called Vehicle. That's part of today's history lesson coming up after this. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
From the Capitol to your kitchen table, Madison's biggest stories live right here on 92.7 WMDX.
Bucks fan Luke Mathers says he's a fan of the Cup.
I'm Stephanie Hoff along with you on a Tuesday morning. This is
I don't know about that.
I mean, so water is wet. Bucks fan is a fan of the Cup? Sure. All right. There's some breaking news.
It's hard to know.
Now it's promotion season, right? We want to go in the store and see butter, buy one, get one free. We want to go see cheese $1 off in the packages, right? And that's where we want to see that momentum continue. And they really should be able to do that. We have yet to see it, especially from the butter side of things, as we see that commodity continue to get beaten up on the market day after day, trading now near $1.50 a pound. That's what kind of everybody's focus is on next, is how holiday demand starts to end, what happens when we start promoting things.
Zach Bowers along with us. He's a dairy analyst with Everegg. Stick around. We've got to look at commodity prices after this.
Next on our Corn Hall of Fame tour, Pioneer brand Power Core Enlist corn.
Ooh, look at all the trophies.
Yes. Power Core Enlist beats competitors with a 7.7 bushel per acre yield advantage. 3 distinct modes of pest control action and unsurpassed herbicide flexibility mean above-ground pests and weeds can't win.
But what if they try?
They wouldn't dare. Plant the 100th season of Pioneer. Visit pioneer.com/powerup.
At CHS, we know what it takes to feed and fuel the world, to integrate a global ag and energy supply chain, to advocate for farmers in their fields and around the world, to build communities, invest in rural America, and empower rural economies. It takes courage, conviction, commitment. It takes the nation's leading farmer-owned cooperative. It takes a co-op. It takes CHS.
Commodity prices across the board popped higher on the close yesterday. From Chicago, December new crop corn was up 2.5 cents at $4.98 3/4. Cash soybeans up 13 cents at $11.30 a bushel. November new crop soybeans up 10 cents, closing at $11.10 1/2. Cash wheat was up 8 cents at $5.35 3/4. And July 2026 new crop wheat up 7 1/4 cents at $5.68 3/4. When cheese and butter closed, Class 3 milk prices were also trading higher, but we didn't see those higher numbers translate into the closing cheese price. The 40-pound block was unchanged from last week at $1.66. AA butter did close up 3.5 cents at $1.51 per pound. You can keep up with all things farm news at MidwestFarmReport.com, and don't forget to try out our new smartphone app. You can download that for free on your Apple or Google Play Store. I'm Stephanie Hoff.
From campus protests to Capitol politics, if it happens on the Isthmus, you'll hear it here. 92.7 WMDX. Real news and great conversation.
After a sprinkle or snow shower this morning, we will see the clouds gradually start to break up here through the day today, but it will stay chilly with a high in the low to mid 40s this afternoon. Tonight, mostly clear. We're going to drop into the low 30s. Tomorrow, sunshine returns with a high near 50. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Currently, it's 26.
Hey there, Wisconsin. Tom Hartman here. Democracy is not a spectator sport, so join me each and every weekday right here on Civic Media for the Tom Hartman program from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Covering the news of the day and sharing ways for you to get off the sidelines and get active in your community, because change starts with you. Get involved and tune in to the Tom Hartman program Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. right here on your local Civic Media radio station.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at
It's time once again for today's history lesson on Mornings with Pat Kreitlow.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
That's one small step for man.
Well, I'm not a crook.
You believe in miracles? Yes!
You know, this depression is going to be so great. We'll be the ones eating the cats and the dogs. That's going to be fun.
Once again, it is time to take another revealing peek back into history.
And we are starting today's history lesson with a little ditty from 1970 and the Ides of March. All right, we need to talk about this song because Vehicle was very popular song. Love the song, love the horn section, love the horns, loved it. And at some point you go, wait a minute, listen to those lyrics. They sound a little creepy here. Well,
one of those.
Happy birthday to Jim Peterick, who's 75 years old today. Now, in a more modern time, well, not modern anymore, but he co-founded the rock band Survivor, which gave us Eye of the Tiger from the Rocky movies. But first, he was a vocalist and guitarist in the Ides of March. And it turns out, as I'm putting this together, Jim Peterick was talking about the origin of the song, and it's not what I thought. It turns out it was basically what you would call an early diss track. Here's what he said to the Wall Street Journal. At the time, I was madly in love with this girl named Karen. I had a souped-up 1964 Plymouth Valiant, and she was always asking for rides. I drove her to modeling school. I was hoping flames would ignite, but they didn't. I came home one day dejected and thought, all I am is her vehicle. And I thought, wow, Vehicle. I came up with the song, taught it to the band. The next thing I knew, we were recording in a CBS studio. And at the time, Vehicle became the fastest-selling single in Warner Brothers record history at that time. So it was all him mocking the fact that he was nothing but a vehicle, doing all these sweet things for one particular girl who was not appreciating him.
This is a great... I didn't realize this was a rejected love song.
I did not either. So I also did not, frankly, appreciate the very varied career of Jim Peterick, who, again, is 75 today. He co-formed Survivor and had several hits for them. He also wrote several hits for 38 Special, like Rockin' Into the Night, Hold On Loosely, and Caught Up in You. He's written songs for Leonard Skinner, Cheap Trick, Sammy Hagar, and more. And that's all for Jim Peterick, 75 years old today. And now I can go back to liking Vehicle once again. Now they've taken the creepiness out of it. All right, speaking of vehicles on this Veterans Day, let's give it up for the Jeep, because it was on this day in 1940. The Willys Car Manufacturing Company. There are a lot of car manufacturing companies that we don't remember anymore. They came and they went, and Willys was one of them. And they submitted a working prototype to the Army on this day in 1940 for a general-purpose military vehicle that would later become universally known as the Jeep. So happy birthday to the Jeep, which is now 85 years old today. Happy birthday to Marshall Crenshaw. He is 72 years old and had this hit in 1982. Kind of a like a Buddy Holly, vibe to it, kind of, or maybe a little Elvis Costello early on. Later on, he wrote a song for the Gin Blossoms in 1995, "Till I Hear It From You." That song from '95. And by the way, in terms of comparing Marshall Crenshaw to Buddy Holly, that was a good comparison. Marshall Crenshaw portrayed Buddy Holly in the 1987 film La Bamba and performed one of his songs in the movie. So Marshall Crenshaw is 72 today. A legendary music producer, Mutt Lange, is 77 years old today. Also on the birthday list, we've got Stanley Tucci, who is 65 today. Stanley Tucci, I mean, say what you will about his acting and directing and all that. I just want him to go back and make more travel shows about eating his way through Italy. He's done 2 different series now on basically travel series focused on food in Italy. And I can't get enough of it. I could watch that daily. Stanley, if you're listening, find the people who can just send you everywhere new in Italy, somewhere every day, and eat stuff. I'll watch it.
Travel food shows, I think, are just
travel.
An underappreciated art.
Oh, I mean, Anthony Bourdain, of course, is the patron saint of all of it. But travel food shows are just a gift from God sometimes, honestly. Actress Demi Moore is 63 years old today. Actor Leonardo DiCaprio turns 51 today. I wonder does that mean he finally has to raise the age at which he will date women?
No, never gonna happen.
Still
Nope.
now
He's got his standard pattern.
the creepy territory of the age range there.
It's been creepy.
Musician John Batiste is 39 years old today. Okay, here is, on this day in 1958, a record made in a studio on this day by Hank Ballard and the Midnighters. Give a listen. This is Hank Ballard and the Midnighters recording the twist on this day in 1958. A couple years later, a fellow named Chubby Checker would come along and really take it places. And the thing is, it doesn't sound that different. It's not like, oh, he put an entirely new spin, pun intended, on the twist. He just went places. And Chubby Checker last weekend inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, pretty much based on one song and its many variations thereof.
I feel like we get a lot of versions of that for Chubby Checker. Like, it seems like he just continually has these kinds of situations.
Hey, you know what? If life is going to hand you luck, take the luck.
Oh, yeah.
Take the good stuff, Tom Jones on this day in 1964 hopped into a recording studio and gave us what you would definitely call Tom Jones's signature number. Or if you just watch The Fresh Prince, you're doing the Carlton dance right now.
It's not unusual to be loved by anyone.
On this day in 1926, the United States numbered highway system was established. Wisconsin was was the first state to number its highways, which were, modified cow paths, basically. But for those new automobiles, they needed to know where they were going. By the way, in starting the numbered highway system on this day in 1926, it was also the day that we officially designated Route 66 from Chicago to Santa Monica, California, spanning 2,448 miles. And that is in a bit of a personal thing. One of my regrets, one of the things I really wanted to do with my dad before he passed was I wanted to do a Route 66 thing. Maybe not the whole thing, but a big chunk of it, because he was living in Arizona at the time. And I think that would have been really great if we hadn't, lost him too soon. And I still wouldn't mind doing that at some point. Route 66 hasn't been Route 66 in a long, long time, but a lot of the tourist sites are still there. And I think that would be really cool. Another interesting point about the numbered highway system that I don't know that we've talked about on this program, but the Yellowstone Trail. Before the numbers, there were roads that were just kind of named, and there was this Yellowstone Trail that helped take people from the eastern parts of the country out to the brand new Yellowstone National Park. And to get there, you just had to keep following the roads that had rocks that were painted yellow. And about 25 years ago, as a reporter, I covered this effort to kind of, resurrect the Yellowstone Trail. And so to this day, around this part of the state, and I'm sure other parts of the state as well, if you see like big rocks that are painted yellow with a black arrow pointing in a direction, and you go, what the heck is that? That's the Yellowstone Trail. Those were the literal highway signs of their day before you had numbered roads and maps.
Oh my God. Is that the origin of the Yellow Brick Road?
No, but that's not a bad thought. Yeah. Absolutely. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
That's so simplistic. I love it.
All right. Here's a case of how was this song a hit? And I don't mean the one you're going to hear first. First, of course, is Donna Summer. This is her disco version of MacArthur Park, which went to number 1 this day in 1978. I mean, it's got a good groove, but I'd never quite understood the lyrics to MacArthur Park and leaving a cake out in the rain. So imagine my surprise when I find out that 10 years earlier in 1968, This song went to number 2 on the charts with this version by actor Richard Harris. I honestly I had to check a couple of times to make sure it wasn't like, am I getting punked? No, it just resonated with listeners of the radio in 1968. And there's the first version of MacArthur Park, which the songwriter said was about a girl dumping him. They used to go to MacArthur Park in New York City, or was it Los Angeles. And he was just describing all the things in the park, including one time somebody left a cake out in the rain. Okay.
What a waste.
I know.
Why would you do that to a kid?
On this day in 1620, the Pilgrims of the Mayflower made their first landing in America at Provincetown Harbor in Massachusetts. It seems like you can't go a week without a Taylor Swift mention in the history lesson. It was on this day in 2008. She released her second studio album, Fearless. Love Story was on there, of course, along with the title track and 15 and You Belong With Me. It would go on to win a truckload of honors, including the Grammy for Album of the Year. All right, let's see. This is the anniversary of the birth of William Proxmire, 110 years ago in 1915. He passed away in 2005. The former senator from Wisconsin served longer than anybody else in this state, from 1957 to 1989. Prior to that, he served in the state assembly. He had a perfect attendance record, and he continued that in the U.S. Senate as well, a perfect attendance record. He won that seat in August of 1957 after the death of Joseph McCarthy. Proxmire did not pay the customary tribute to his predecessor and instead stated that McCarthy was, quote, a disgrace to Wisconsin, to the Senate, and to America. And frankly, we've needed more of that candor about certain people in this country. So again, William Proxmire, born this day in 1915. This day, of course, is all about we say it's Veterans Day, but it was originally called Armistice Day to mark the armistice, the peace deal that was signed by the Allies and Germany, ending what we now know as World War I. On this day in 1918, with hostilities coming to an end at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And then in an unfortunate weather tragedy, and we've talked already about different deadly storms in November, and we're now at the point where we're getting close to running out of survivors from the Armistice Day blizzard. But it was on this day in 1940 that at least 150 people died across the Midwest and the Great Lakes. Duck hunters throughout Minnesota, Wisconsin, and beyond were frozen in a day that had started in the 60s. But then two massive systems, one of Arctic air and one from moist air from the south, converged into a storm that blew so hard the level of Lake Michigan in Chicago was 4 feet lower, and it was 4 feet higher over on the Michigan shore. That left so many people unprepared for what was to follow for the Armistice Day blizzard this day in 1940. So there's some of today's history lesson for you. And again, we always appreciate your ideas. People are putting some notes on Facebook and YouTube about either their comments on the anniversaries or other dates that they'd like to suggest, other birthdays. We're always open to those as well. So feel free to touch base. Still ahead, we're going to be talking to Fred Clark, a congressional candidate in the 7th District here up north, about the results from last week's election and whether it gives him hope that Democrats can recapture the 7th Congressional District seat in northern Wisconsin for the first time in 16 years. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Oh my goodness, the comment sections were so busy. Let's go see what I missed.
Well, I'll tell you the first thing I
saw. What? I know which one you're talking about.
Tony mercifully censoring himself so that we don't accidentally say anything on air.
Yes, thank you for that. Let's see. There's Alicia on Veterans Day, Tony on the deal, Alicia on the budget, Tony on the cup, Alicia on veterans, Rebecca, Tony. Let's see. Alicia, when I hear that song, I don't think of the Fresh Prince. I think of Marvin the Martian from Looney Tunes. I have to make the connection there. Hank Ballard was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1990. Good. Catherine, thank you. Tony, the Yellow Rock Road, not the Yellow Brick Road. Yeah. There's a bunch of rocks from the Yellowstone Trail in Greenville. Okay. Interesting. And now, I've got so many comments here. It's not letting me scroll down to see the bottom. Maybe I need to make the screen bigger here. There we go. Yes. Okay. Got them all. All right. I'll try to get to some of these as I'm able here through the morning. We're going to do the National Day Calendar and some entertainment news coming up.
At Total Wine & More, find bourbons and Cabernets that you adore. Our helpful guides are so friendly and nice. So many bottles to try at the lowest price. So gather with friends as you sit down to eat. Grateful for all who made Thanksgiving complete.
With curbside pickup available and the lowest prices for over 30 years, you'll always find what you love and love what you find. Only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
When severe weather hits and the power goes out, do you have a plan? For reliable power and peace of mind, propane can do that. It only takes about 10 seconds for a propane-powered generator to restore power to your home. So no matter what Mother Nature has in store, you know you're prepared. Learn more at WIPGA.org. This message is sponsored by your local propane provider and the Wisconsin Propane Education and Research Council.
Where working people come to talk. It's The Rick Smith Show, weeknights at 9 on the Civic Media Radio Network. Join me for an honest approach to the issues American working families care about. No talking points, no focus groups. Get ready for a heavy dose of democracy, fairness, grit, and no apology.
$855-75-CIVIC is the phone number here, 855-752-4842, or send a text message. Use the Civic Media app to send us a voice note or put something in the comment sections. On the text line from Ollie in the North Woods says, on this Veterans Day, we should open our hearts and reach out to shake the hands of the veterans who have served and are currently serving our country and keeping us safe, and to the National Guard who, because of their love for country and oath to the Constitution, are in many of our cities trying to keep the peace when they would rather be home with their families. Thank you for your service. And then a series of heart and flag and handshake emojis from Ollie in the Northwoods. Thank you, Ollie, very much for putting that on the text line here. Plenty of other love for our veterans on there as well. Rebecca saying yay to the veterans on there. Alicia writes on YouTube, free meals and small services one day a year from private companies doesn't cut it. We were federal employees and the federal government needs to pony up. Amen to that as well. And then some other folks, again, wishing our veterans a happy Veterans Day. Let's see. So let's see what's on the National Day calendar. Parker Olson, what you got?
It is Education Day, Pat. National Education Day.
National Education Day, not to be confused with like National Teachers Day or something like this. So today is the day to go get an education.
Yes.
All right.
I
Congratulations.
think it's an important thing.
All
I would
right.
appreciate it if more people were educated.
All right. What else do we have on this Tuesday?
We have also got, it is Sunday.
No, it's Tuesday.
No, it's Sunday Day, Pat.
Sunday Day?
Sunday Day.
National Sunday Day.
Yes.
All right.
Ice cream Sunday Day.
All right. Well, I'll play along. Favorite Sunday? Go.
I like turtle. Give me some pecans in there.
I like turtle. Hot fudge and bananas. Love a good hot fudge sundae with some bananas on there. Yeah. I would. All right. Sure. What else you got out there? Best Sunday. Where would you get, and if you want, where would you get it from? I know the go-to for many folks is Culver's these days, but where else would you get your stuff? Do you have a local ice cream joint like Olson's here in Chippewa Falls? Would love to hear about that as well. It feels a little weird to do that when the temperature is 29 degrees here right now. I'm not sure why it's Sunday day in the middle of November, but be that as it may. What do we have in entertainment news to share?
We have got AC/DC is going to be performing at Camp Randall next year. What is it? July 19th as part of their Power Up tour, and tickets just went on sale, I think, on Friday of last week. So you've got a chance. Go
Can
get
I
them.
just say I'm now at that age where I'm kind of, you reap what you sow. And for years and years, I'd hear a story like this and I'd go, oh, are they coming out on their walkers and their wheelchairs because they're so old? Oh, they're still doing. And now, of course, who's the guy that saw Chicago at Summerfest and was so impressed that all these people pushing 80 are still as good as they were, as ever? And you've got, Springsteen and the Rolling Stones and all these guys are still doing it. So I'm not going to throw stones at AC/DC or any of the other aging rockers who can still draw a crowd. So if you can sell the tickets, come on down. If you want to see them, go for it. All right.
I hope that those tickets get a little cheaper as they get older, though.
They do not. The only way that the tickets get cheaper is if they're on, say, the county fair circuit. And so like last year, was it Journey that was at the Northern Wisconsin State Fair here in Chippewa Falls? A little older, but the tickets are a lot cheaper than they were once upon a time. So just keep an eye out for all the various county fair performances that come up every summer. What else we got?
Grammy nominations are out. I believe yesterday or today they came out. Kendrick Lamar is kind of leading the way. He's got 9 nominations. And everyone's favorites will be Super Bowl halftime performer Bad Bunny has become the first Spanish artist with nominations in Best Album, Best Record, and Best Song categories all in the same year. First Spanish artist to ever do that.
Interesting. Okay. Here's the thing, though, and again, the music charts and all of that, the Grammys and what qualifies for what. Some days it kind of throws me. Like this morning when I heard the story that Michael Jackson was back on the Billboard Hot 100, the singles chart. He was in the top 10. Because again, the way the charts are measured now, it's not just, radio play or, people going to record stores, but you throw that streaming element into it. Sure. And so many people were streaming Thriller during Halloween that technically Thriller was one of the top 10 songs in the country last week.
Just you wait until it's Mariah Carey.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And so, again, Thriller is a 1982 classic. According to Variety, it amassed 14 million streams and a radio airplay audience of 9 million. It makes Michael Jackson the first artist ever to achieve top 10 hits in 6 different decades. I know. In doing so, he surpasses somebody who held a top 10 hit across 5 decades. You'll never guess it because it was Andy Williams who did that.
Pardon my youth, but who?
Who? See? Exactly. And unfortunately, I just don't have time to explain Andy Williams. You've heard me talk about Pat Boone a million times. Kind of in that range. Kind of, sort of popular music, or what was popular music back then. Let's see. Oh, you have a Michael Jackson note here in your entertainment notes.
Well, of course. The Michael, which is the Michael Jackson biopic that's coming out, just released a trailer. It features his actual nephew, Jafar Jackson, as the actor who depicts Michael Jackson.
Okay.
It'll be kind of interesting to see how they go about that movie, depicting his life. It sounds like they're going to leave out the legal troubles that were later on in his life.
Well, you're really kind of taking the bio out of biopic then, I guess. But all right, be that as it may. All right, coming up after the news, we're going to spend some time with guests over the next couple of hours talking about the direction of the party. We're going to start with former Bill Clinton speechwriter Paul Glastras, who's now an editor at Washington Monthly. And then in our 8 o'clock hour, at 7:30, we will be talking to Fred Clark, candidate for Congress, and then Ruth Conniff from the Wisconsin Examiner, coming up in our 8 o'clock hour. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Civic Media Station.
All right. There's Paul. Hey,
Hey.
Paul. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are you?
I am well. I am well. Yourself?
I'm good. Whoops. Let me just get the right buttons pushed here. There we go. There's Parker, our producer, putting everything together for us. All right. So let's see. Paul, do you have can you see there's a note on the right there that should say private chat? And let me just put a hello, Paul, in there and let me know if you can see that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I call your attention to that because that's where Parker will put time cues here. We go from 7:06 to 7:20 Central Time.
Great.
And so he'll just be counting down 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute to 7:20 when we wrap things up here. So just wanted to make sure you saw that.
Great.
But you look good. You sound good. We're in good shape there. Do you want to start in any particular direction as we talk about last week's election results?
Sure. I mean, I could talk all day about all of this stuff. So I don't know if there's anything from our website or magazine that you saw that you want to talk about, or just generally where Democrats are and what to make of, both last week's elections,
Yep.
as well as maybe, the cave,
Okay.
what to make of that and looking forward. Does that sound good?
Yes. And I've got a note here from Frank, our senior producer. He called attention to some ideas for the road ahead, which include saving Social Security, and that don't give up on rural voters, something that we talk about a lot on this program. And that instead of fighting MAGA in the poisonous digital political ecosystem, Democrats should challenge that environment as the root cause of our dysfunctional politics and vow to be the party to clean it up. So I could certainly ask how that happened. How do you clean that up? That sounds like a tall order.
Gotcha.
So,
Yep.
All right. Well, we got some stuff to start with here, so we will get going in about 3.5 minutes. I will tuck you in the waiting room and see you in just a little bit.
Very good.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
Impression on him.
Todd Pritchard is with the Wisconsin Alumni Association and tells me as he was digging into Higley's background, he found some amazing history. He led the State American Legion, and later Higley served as head of Veterans Affairs under President Dwight Eisenhower.
He thought, how can we really dedicate a day to veterans? Created a bill to change Armistice Day to Veterans Day, and that's what we celebrate now every year.
Harvey Higley is worth remembering. It's the Wisconsin man's work ensuring our nation never forgets to honor our veterans.
That's Terry Barr reporting, and I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is 92.7 WMDX News.
The Eagles down the Packers. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with Sports NFL. The Eagles beat the Packers in a low-scoring Monday Night Football game. The final 10-7 in favor of Philadelphia. Packers running back Josh Jacobs on the team losing to the Eagles for the 4th time in 3 years.
I can't really just put my finger on it, man. I mean, it's a lot of plays out there. I'm getting banged up, still playing through stuff. It just is what it is. I mean, it's football. You got to have a certain type of mentality. You got to have a certain type of heart to play this game.
It was a tight ball game most of the night, with Philly leading just 3-0. Eagles running back Saquon Barkley.
That's football. That's why you can't get too caught up in the highs or the lows. 2 plays, it could be big and it could be 6 points, 7 points, and it can go really, really good. You can be driving, and one play can knock it all off. So you just got to stay with it.
Men's college basketball, number 24th ranked Wisconsin against Ball State tonight in Madison. NBA, the Bucks head to Charlotte to play the Hornets tomorrow night. With Sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
77 square miles surrounded by reality, and we cover all of it. This is 92.7 WMDX Madison and on the Civic Media app.
After a sprinkle or snow shower this morning, we will see the clouds gradually start to break up here through the day today, but it will stay chilly with a high in the low to mid 40s this afternoon. Tonight, mostly clear. We're going to drop into the low 30s. Tomorrow, sunshine returns with a high near 50. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Currently, it's 26.
This is Robert Pilot, host of Native Roots Radio. On our show, we talk about Native issues like treaties, protecting Mother Earth, and holding our elected officials accountable. You'll also hear from Turtle Island voices like Arvina Martin, State Representative Heather Keeler, Ruth Anna Buffalo, Dr. Anthony Stately, State Senator Mary Kunish, Robert Lilligren, and Bob Blake. Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Native Roots Radio, weeknights at 8 on your local civic media radio station.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
We have Emerson Lehman in the studio. I don't get excited about gardening. My wife will say, oh, it's going to be gorgeous this weekend. We should work in the yard. I'm like, why would we penalize ourselves for having beautiful weather by going outside?
My dad, I went home to visit one summer. My dad's out moving rocks. Yeah, I'm not moving rocks for fun. I'm sorry.
30 seconds until we're back.
Across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back. Nice to have you here up north on a Tuesday morning. It's November 11th. 7:06 is the time right now. And let's see, as always, we get a good morning on YouTube in the comment section from Rob. He says, good morning from Tigerton, cloudy and 27 degrees, a few snow flurries. Says he watched the Packer game until he fell asleep. Well, that was easy enough to do. He said the Packers offense was stone cold. No, sir, it was non-existent. And then, of course, he adds thank you to all the veterans for serving and protecting this country, to which we say a very hearty amen. We talked about a bit about that in our last hour. And, of course, if you ever miss an hour here and want to listen back, you can head to the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us, or better yet, you can follow us as a podcast. Head over to Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us. And that way you'll never miss an episode. You'll never miss a guest like our next guest here, the editor-in-chief of Washington Monthly, Paul Glastris, a former speechwriter for former President Bill Clinton, who has one of many articles in Washington Monthly, but including how the Democrats can play offense. And Paul joins us now. And then later we'll be joined by congressional candidate Fred Clark, who is running up north in the 7th Congressional District in northern Wisconsin. And in our 8:30 half hour, at 8:30. I'm sorry. Got a little messed up there. 8:30, we're going to be talking to Ruth Conniff from the Wisconsin Examiner, who also has an article about the direction that Democrats need to go coming out of the elections last week, but also the budget shutdown and now the effort by some Democrats to bring it to an end. But Paul Glastris joins us now, again, editor-in-chief of Washington Monthly. Paul, good morning. How are you?
Pat, I'm fine. I'm glad to be here. Glad to get to talk to your audience.
Yeah, I mean, we were going to talk anyway about last week's election results, and it's funny. It was like Democrats were giving themselves a victory parade, and then some people threw out some spike strips and stopped the parade in its tracks. Let's start with your review on that, because then we'll come back to where Democrats need to go. But as you look from your point of view at the effort that was made by some to bring an end to the government shutdown, it's a process that's happening right now in the Senate and then the House. What are your overall thoughts at what you're seeing?
Well, with the a couple of nights sleep and reading and thinking about it, it's a little less puzzling to me. But it was awfully puzzling when it happened. And as you said, you had a blowout election for the Democrats last Tuesday. Across the board, success in just about every realm. You had the President Trump step out on a rake by cruelly cutting SNAP benefits and having the court say, no, that's unconstitutional. You had the polling showing the Democrats coming out ahead in this thing. Why then cave right then? And I think we kind of know the answer. And that is a whole bunch of Democratic senators, and that's who was deciding this, were never into this. They didn't want to do it. They got pushed into doing it, and they had been looking for a way out. They waited, probably at the insistence of Chuck Schumer, till after the election, till after the Obamacare subsidies are at the Obamacare tax credits are at the basis of this, and they wanted to have those numbers out so that everyone could see. And then they chose their moment. And it's interesting to note that of the 8 Democrats who signed on to ending the shutdown, 2 of them are retiring, and the rest aren't running in 2026.
Of course.
So what that tells me is there was a whole lot of other senators who would have signed on, but for fear that they would lose, to a primary candidate or not, suppress their own base vote. So I think this was just a case where, and let us be honest, the cutting of SNAP hurt. Democrats care about stuff like that. The fear that something would go wrong in the air probably haunted the room. It's was bad timing, but it is a perfect score for shutdowns. They've never once moved policy in the past, and they didn't move policy this time.
No, they don't. We're talking to Paul Glastrust, editor-in-chief at Washington Monthly. And so as you wrote about the road ahead for Democrats, because this, what's happening now with the government shutdown, like everything else, it will move into memory, and then you have to carry on from there. So taking the lessons that were learned, what needs to happen in 2026? What are the kinds of issues that Democrats can be running on? Because we know the debate, it ranges from, kitchen table issues to keep calling out, Trump's danger to democracy. Where do you feel like the party needs to go from its congressional and frankly at the state level, its legislative candidates as well?
Well, I think you saw more than a hint of that in last Tuesday's elections. We at the Washington Monthly have been writing for a long time that Democrats have lost the working class, middle class vote increasingly because folks are suffering. We've had decades in which the economy has not worked for the bottom 60% of the country. Donald Trump got elected and reelected by saying, I am going to overturn the powers that be and deliver a better life to you folks who are left behind, who are feeling furious at the system. Now he's predictably, so far, not delivered. And a lot of the folks who voted for him will vote for him through a blizzard, but a lot of those who voted for him out of exasperation with their lives not getting better in the previous 4 years, and in many ways getting worse. So Democrats have to focus like a laser on policies that can promise to actually help those folks at the bottom 70%, and then deliver. That's the key. And talk is cheap, and micro little changes of the kind that it's most likely to get through Congress aren't going to cut it. So Democrats have to offer more thoroughgoing change than they have in a long time. And that's tough. And pragmatists will say, well, it can't be done. Sir, if you can't do it, you're not going to govern. Yeah, and I think we're seeing movement toward that.
I believe so as well. And I think we're going to see, we're already seeing many primaries here in Wisconsin. And certainly a lot of what I'm seeing in our own comment section today is talking about primarying some of these, like you said, a lot of them aren't up next year, but, again, looking for people who actually want to fight. We're talking to Paul Glastris, former Clinton White House speechwriter, now the editor-in-chief at Washington Monthly. And again, of the many things that are listed in your issues and out there, they include things like, not giving up on rural voters. We talk about that a lot here on this program. But also there's a note that says, instead of fighting MAGA in today's poisonous digital political ecosystem, Democrats should challenge that environment as the root cause of our dysfunctional politics and vow to be the party that cleans it up. What do you mean by how can somebody clean up what has become a very poisonous political digital ecosystem?
Well, look, I across the board, Democrats and Republicans are aware that the digital ecosystem is poisonous, that it steals their data, that it plays with their minds, that it divides neighbor from neighbor. There is broad awareness that this sort of hoped for democratic digital space where everyone was going to get their voice and all that we heard in the 90s and the 2000s has turned into a cesspool. And Democrats have a choice. They can get into the cesspool, right? A lot of the political class is saying Democrats need their own Joe Rogan. Democrats need to go, their own Nick Fuentes or whatever. What our author, Zach Marcus, is arguing is get on the side of parents who are worried about their kids losing the capacity to focus and socialize because they're on their phones so much. Get on the side of people who want this country to come together around some common sense issues instead of being driven apart. And you do that by taking on the tech platforms. Look, imagine if 100 years ago, the government had said to the new telephone technology, right, that was coming up, you know what? Telephone companies, you can listen in to the conversations that are happening on your telephone lines. And when somebody says, I might be looking for a house, you can sell that information to banks and realtors, and then they can call the people on their phones during dinner time to sell them mortgages and homes. And if they say that they are angry at their neighbor, you can call the other neighbor and you can get a fight going. No, we didn't allow that. We didn't allow this basic information infrastructure to be both a pipeline of information and something the owner of the pipeline could monetize. We've done that with tech platforms today. And we have laws on the books that we can apply to the tech platforms to say you can't do this anymore. You can't monetize this information. And there are ways of putting speed bumps in the way, right? If you have a road that cars go fast on naturally and you've got kids in that neighborhood, you put a speed bump. It doesn't stop somebody from driving, it just slows them down. There's all kinds of speed bumps you can demand in the digital world to de-accelerate the anger, the hatred, and so forth.
Paul Glastris.
Democrats ought to run on that.
Absolutely. Paul Glastris is here, editor-in-chief of Washington Monthly. We're talking about the path forward for Democrats. I've got time for one more in here, and there is a note about saving Social Security, broaden the revenue base to include financial returns, increase the taxable maximum, and expand the system's tax base. Essentially, is that a nuanced version of, run against the billionaires? Because whoever knew we'd have so many billionaires in our lifetime in this country?
It's basically a recognition that a lot of people are trying to live on Social Security. Social Security is losing its trust fund. It needs to be we not only have to put money back in the trust fund, but actually increase payments to people who are needy. And, that's political gold if you can do it. How do you pay for it? Well, don't raise payroll taxes on average people, which is what all the Washington serious people say. Tax plastics, tax carbon, tax things that make us unhealthy, tax financial transactions, short-term financial transactions, ways of of supporting our retirement that don't require pain on the average person.
These are very creative thoughts and move beyond just the usual cliche that you hear in all this post-election coverage. So I would highly recommend WashingtonMonthly.com for Paul Glastris and his team there. Paul, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it. Thanks for your insight.
Pat, it's been a pleasure.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much. Still ahead, we're going to be talking to Fred Clark, candidate for Congress, about what he sees as the way to win back a very rural district in northern Wisconsin. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, we're in break. We're good to go. Paul, that was wonderful. I hope we can have you back and continue this.
Anytime. We got lots of great, fantastic writers. I'd love to have them all on. Pat, Parker, could we get a clip of this?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We'll put that on social media. We got a pretty good.
Yep, we put up clips on social media, and we'll sometimes put up extended clips on our YouTube channel, so we'll be working on that today.
Great. Thank you so much, guys.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Have a great day.
Have a good one.
All right. And then there's Dan. Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How was your weekend?
The weekend was great. I did a lot of tiling, picking up a backsplash.
Oh, my goodness.
And then the Packers stunk, so oh well.
Yeah, there is that. Okay. And what else are you working on over there?
Right. So, yeah, I could look up. I took the day off yesterday. I should have looked
that's
this
all right.
up.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Let me do a quick look here.
Okay.
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 Still there?
I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, so Marathon County is the largest geographical county in the state. They're going to potentially work with ICE.
Yeah. Okay.
Some people are up in arms about that. There's an Anigo lady competing in a style competition, Elton John style competition.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Good. 25 seconds and we'll get things going here.
Okay.
All right. Nice to have you back on this Tuesday morning. It's November 11th, and as we do every week at this time, we check in with Dan Hagan from Newswatch 12, WJFW TV in Rhinelander, who, as we learned last week, also recorded an album, and now I'm finding out, I mean, he is just a true Renaissance man. Should be doing a series on HGTV before we know it. Dan, good morning. How are you? What's the latest project?
That's right, Pat. I did some tiling. I asked everyone what color I should do between blue and teal. They all said blue, so I did teal, and it looks pretty good.
Well, congratulations on that. You all done?
It's currently there are 1,000 spacers in between all of these tiles, so I need to take the spacers out. I need to grout it, and I need to caulk it. So I'm going to hopefully bring in an expert for the caulking, as that's. So have you ever heard the phrase "try your best, caulk the rest," Pat?
No, I never have, but there's some advice I'll take to heart.
Yeah, so you get the tile pretty close, you get the grout pretty good, and then you caulk the rest.
Okay, well, there you go. So you got to do that. You got to catch up, kind of have a longer weekend, and then you wrap up the weekend with a very relaxing chance to watch the Packers take on the Philadelphia Eagles, and, well, we see how that worked out.
Something's wrong with this team. I didn't think about that until last night. I held out hope, but something is definitely wrong. Which is a
There's
shame.
something foundationally wrong there with that offense, and I think more than you can just blame on injuries. And I know injuries are a real factor, but you know what? They're a factor for every team, and you work your way around it. So.
And I think our offensive line has traditionally been one of the stronger units in the league, and we're not running the ball. Seeps through the whole offense.
Yeah, no, it's an issue. Dan Hagen's with us from Newswatch 12. We've got a bit of a connection issue, but I think we're powering through just fine. So I want to get your thoughts on one of the stories in the news that you're covering out there, and that deals with Marathon County's Sheriff's Office signing an agreement to cooperate with ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, to identify and turn over people they believe to be in the country illegally. I mean, we're talking about an area that is filled with farm workers and people who, have concerns. But now, if they travel and get so much as a speeding ticket, they could face some kind of deportation. And not everybody in Marathon County is very happy about this arrangement, Dan.
No, they're not. There is a large Latino population in Marathon County. In Abbotsford and Colby, there are meatpacking plants that employ a lot of Latinos. In addition to that, like you mentioned, the dairy farms, a lot of dairy farms in Marathon County, a lot of them are staffed by immigrants. So the Marathon County Sheriff, there's some speculation whether his hands are tied, but he's said to agree with ICE that when people come into the jail, that they'll do a little bit of enforcement as well when it comes to legal immigration. So yeah, people are not happy about this, and he says he can't kind of give us a reasoning at this time because of the ongoing litigation as well.
Well, obviously, we've got a real question about whether that's the most effective use of time for sheriff's officers is to be doing immigration checks rather than just on the things that they actually have done, whether it's committing some kind of crimes or things like that. So you see why there's a controversy on that. Also, there have been stories with the cutoff of SNAP benefits, with the government shutdown, with other government cutbacks. You've got, everything from Open Door of Marathon County getting a large donation to the Rhinelander School District urging families to take advantage of free and reduced price school meals. The theme really the past several days around the state and around the country, Dan, has been that in light of the shutdown, people are realizing there's more they can do to help each other.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. There's a really strong nonprofit in Eagle River called Fork, Feed Our Rural Kids, and they basically gave everyone like $100 grocery store gift cards. So they dug into their kind of endowment fund and made that happen. And then there's been some local restaurants as well. Pickles, which you might remember won Best Hamburger in Wisconsin last year. They offered free meals to people, and that's not a one-time story. A lot of
Okay.
Well, they did return. They
right.
should come back as well.
All right. Dan Hagen from Newswatch 12. I appreciate you joining us every week at this time, as always. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and I can't wait to hear what your next big project is going to be.
Oh, geez. Well, man, Ironwood, ABR is open for cross-country skiing. I would go up there, but the goal is to ski.
That's right. It's always about the next Berkey. All right. Dan, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Pat.
All right. Do you remember we had that issue with Dan's connection? Was it 2-3 months back? I feel like it's been a while.
It was a long time ago, and it kind of came back there, and it sounded like we were putting him through
a voice distortion thing where it gets really high and then really low, and we're definitely going to have to explore that one a bit more. Or just take advantage of it, and we'll play Looney Tunes music or something.
Oh, I like that idea.
I mean, no.
I think we put like a Darth Vader
Look, I'd be happy to do that with somebody not in the news business. When we're trying to talk about news, probably not the best time to have a cartoon bed sound effect. But we might be onto something here for
We might
other
be.
guests. If we
Dan,
can just
get out of news. That'll
yeah,
solve
Dan,
the problem.
that's it, Dan. You're far too serious for us. We just we want to have more fun with Dan. Anyway, also coming up, Fred Clark is going to be joining us, candidate for Congress up in the 7th District. We're going to talk a bit about the race there. As you know, Tom Tiffany is not running for re-election to Congress. He is running for governor instead. Then in our 8 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking to Ruth Conniff, kind of along the same lines as our last guest. Ruth has an editorial in the Wisconsin Examiner that says Tuesday's Democratic sweep is a wake-up call for Wisconsin. Well, since that time, of course, we've also had the latest on the potential end to the government shutdown, so we'll get her thoughts and whether that impacts where she thinks the Democratic Party and candidates need to go from here. All that still ahead on these Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Talking. Leaders are deciding. Madison's story unfolds daily on 92.7 WMDX.
Here at the Midwest Farm Report, we thank all of our veterans for their service. Their commitment ensures the freedoms and security we rely on every day, and their courage continues to strengthen our communities. I'm Stephanie Hoff, along with you on this Veterans Day. In today's agribusiness news, open enrollment is on now in Wisconsin to sign up for health care coverage. We'll talk to an expert after this.
No one should have to navigate herd health alone. Luckily, you don't have to. A successful operation requires teamwork. Visit bio-vet.com and let us help identify key challenges and offer expert solutions unique to your situation. We evaluate your full herd health plan and make economical recommendations to your operation. Learn more about our team and products for herd health at bio-vet.com.
Innovation, that's BioVet. Open enrollment is on now to get your health care coverage. Visit healthcare.gov. Today we're checking in with Stephanie Plaster from the Division of Extension, who says it can be difficult for rural residents to navigate the healthcare marketplace because their needs are different.
And really in rural areas, it can be a bit more complicated finding services and providers that are covered, that are located close enough to you, and that provide what you need. And so this is really can be very individual depending on the needs of yourself and your family. Luckily, we do have some tools through Extension to help folks figure out what's the best option for them based on what's available. And I think the easiest way to do this is we do have a couple of upcoming workshops at multiple locations across the state. Those are going to be November 14th to help folks walk through this process, because you're really going to look at, again, what your needs are, what the cost of all those options are.
You can find the full conversation with Stephanie Plaster on the Midwest Farm Report podcast page. Stick around. We'll take a look at more agribusiness news next.
At CHS, we know what it takes to feed and fuel the world, to integrate a global ag and energy supply chain, to advocate for farmers in their fields and around the world, to build communities, invest in rural America, and empower rural economies. It takes courage, conviction, commitment. It takes the nation's leading farmer-owned cooperative. It takes a co-op. It takes CHS.
A lot of questions right now in the federal government around if it's going to open back up, what's going to be happening with the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and will the 2018 Farm Bill see yet another extension? While those are federal matters, there are still plenty of policy directives moving here in Madison. In the most recent Assembly Agriculture Committee hearing, Wisconsin lawmakers are weighing two bills, one that addresses foreign ownership of farmland and another giving farmers more protection when purchasing high-cost equipment. You can find the details at MidwestFarmReport.com. I'm Stephanie Hoff.
From State Street to state government, we're here for all of it. WMDX, your Madison home for real news and great conversation. Learn more at WMDXradio.com.
After a sprinkle or snow shower this morning, we will see the clouds gradually start to break up here through the day today, but it will stay chilly with a high in the low to mid-40s this afternoon. Tonight, mostly clear. We're going to drop into the low 30s. Tomorrow, sunshine returns with a high near 50. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Currently, it's 28.
Doctors Without Borders is delivering life-saving medical care where it's needed most in communities around the world. From bandaging war-wounded patients in Sudan to providing clean drinking water.
All right, let's see if we get Fred on here. Hey, Fred, can you hear me? Fred, where are you? I saw you tried to pop on there. You might have to pop off and pop back on again here. And if not, you can reach us at 855-75-CIVIC. It is a Tuesday morning. It's November 11th. It is Veterans Day, so don't be checking the mail. Instead, be thankful. Maybe attend one of the ceremonies that might be going on in your hometown as well, and thank our vets for their service. And hopefully, we do more for them than just recognize them, one day a year, but actually follow through on things that would keep our promise to our veterans. We certainly have seen how some politicians have fallen short on that account in both Madison and Washington, D.C. We have spoken at length about the issue with our veterans and homeless veteran services, and certainly what's been happening with the VA system as well. I think Fred Clark is on the line now. Fred, are you with us?
I am with you. Good morning, Pat.
Hey, good morning. Nice to have you along, Fred. Fred Clark's candidate for Congress, former state assembly rep, now up in the Bayfield area, but the 7th district is very large. Fred, where do we find you this morning?
It is, yeah, Pat. I'm in Rothschild, just looking at the big stack of logs here at the Domtar Rothschild mill, and we had to move to a spot to get some better signal, but it's a good day.
Well, you know what? We never miss a chance then to talk about the importance of infrastructure, and that we need more people who will invest in things like the internet infrastructure across northern Wisconsin. So you're living right near the top of the district, and you're getting awfully close to the southern border of that district. So I'm betting you've put a few miles on the vehicle.
We are putting a few miles on. It's been really enjoyable. I've been traveling as frequently as I can to talk to business owners. Talk to residents, talk to civic leaders and communities from Hudson to Crandon and Nacita to Cornucopia. There's a lot going on, but believe me, my sense strongly is that people are paying attention right now to what's going on with the federal government.
Oh, they sure are, especially with the way things have been treated with this shutdown here. We'll work our way to the deal that is apparently going to end the shutdown. But before we get there, let's talk about, first off, the pain that has been needlessly caused to families and to the economy and everything else. Tell me about the things that you're hearing and the local impact that you're seeing from everything from, SNAP benefits being cut off to health insurance prices being jacked up. What are folks focused on?
Yeah, those are the two big ones, that and the national sales tax that's been, created by our president through this tariff war. I think those are the three. For farmers and manufacturers and business owners, the just unpredictably wild roller coaster ride that we're on economically because of the president's tariff war is a huge source of concern for business owners who can't make investments with any predictability, and it's a source of inflation for people buying things that may be imported. On healthcare, I sat down with one of my neighbors last week who showed me her statement, that as a result of increased premiums and the elimination of the subsidy, her premium is going to go from $183 a month to over $1,100 a month at the beginning of next year. So we have people now that are going to face the choice of either mining their retirement savings or dropping coverage altogether as a result of the failure to continue these tax credits. And I visited a couple of food pantries now that are all gearing up and are already experiencing dramatically increased usage by people for whom SNAP benefits are no longer predictable. And we know the governor's made a good move to try to restore those benefits, but without the federal funding behind it, that's not sustainable. I'll just say finally on that, Pat, it's an interesting political strategy to me to inflict the maximum amount of harm on as many people as possible by this administration leading up to another important election. I don't think it's serving them, and a lot of conversations about that.
Oh, well, it seems a tough time to ask people for votes when you're busy shutting down their government and services and things like that. Let me ask you about a particular Republican response when it comes to the Affordable Care Act and these enhanced tax credits that made these health insurance policies more affordable. And you talk about the big increase in prices that consumers are paying. Well, where Republicans have come down on this is to say, well, you see, that's just proof that we shouldn't have these enhanced tax credits because that represents just so much money that's going to these big time insurance companies. Well, okay, but so you're making people pay them instead. What's the alternative to make healthcare more affordable for folks? Fred, when you hear them saying, well, this is proof we don't need the premium tax credits, what do you say to that?
The Affordable Care Act was a compromise that nobody thought was perfect. What it reflected at the time was a Republican model that, as you know as well as anybody, Pat, a Republican model that Mitt Romney adopted in Massachusetts, and it basically embraced a free market approach to providing health care. Nobody thinks that this is the perfect solution. I believe that we need to look really hard at how we provide health care for everybody and find out how to do that. But in the meantime, we got to stop the bleeding. And having millions of Americans uninsured and the impact that our healthcare infrastructure will realize as a result of that is going to hurt all of us, regardless of where we get our coverage.
We're talking to Fred Clark. He's a candidate for Congress in the 7th District all across northern Wisconsin here on Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. And so let's get to the potential deal that might end the shutdown, which, again, was only put forward by a handful of senators, again, either retiring or not on the ballot next year. There are other senators who are I think it would be fair to describe them as furious about this. You certainly have people like Senator Tammy Baldwin, who has been speaking out against it because, again, it just allows the health insurance price hikes to go through with the promise of, maybe a vote on it a little bit later. Other people making the case that enough pain had been inflicted and you have to get the best deal that you can and then, fight another day. Now that I've described both ends of it, what describes your position on what you're seeing in Washington today?
Well, I didn't want to see them accept it's hard to even call it a deal. They got a very small number of concessions with their agreement to take that vote. I think that was a mistake. I think that in another month, the disruptions to travel and the other things that would be going on as a result of this, we're gonna really lead the Republicans to need to finally accept reality. I get it. Nobody wants to see this suffering continue. But as it is, the House is going to come back into session. It's a new inning. The ball's in play. They're going to have to seat the Congresswoman from Arizona. They're going to have to take a vote on the Epstein files. And at least out of this, we're going to see the House of Representatives back in session after a historic, it's not even fair to call it a recess. They need to go back and start doing their jobs.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've had Tom Tiffany on this essentially paid vacation for the longest time, Derek Van Orden and the others as well. And, getting to play politician rather than statesman in the Capitol. Now, again, Tom Tiffany is, running for governor instead, so there will be a different Republican nominee. But I would expect, as you're looking at the field right now, I don't think we're hearing anything from the announced candidates or potential candidates that indicates they would do anything other than whatever Donald Trump tells them to do if they were to be the next congressman for the 7th District.
Based on everything I know, that's right. I was just yesterday at a forum in Wausau with one of the Republican announced candidates, Michael Alfonso, and he more or less embraced his ongoing loyalty to the president and to the Trump administration, and his future is going to be tied to what this administration does. It's going to be a really clear contrast.
Well, again, somebody who has said, as Sean Duffy's son-in-law, that he is going to be an unabashed supporter of all that Donald Trump says or does. Hardly a voice of independence, which, by the way, was also the thing Derek Van Orden and Brian Stile all said that they were going to be as well. But it is interesting as well that Michael Alfonso is Sean Duffy's son-in-law, the former congressman for the 7th Congressional District. And I mean, it sure seems like we're basing a lot in family name and family connections here for a guy in the White House who was the focus of a No Kings rally. That I'm kind of missing the broader qualifications for office here, other than being the son-in-law of somebody who is now essentially the voice and face of the administration in promoting, the inconveniences that are coming with the shutdown.
Yeah, he's going to have to own all of that. He's going to have to own the elimination of food stamps and the elimination of health care and explain why that's a logical, rational policy for America. And he'll have the endorsement of his father-in-law, Sean Duffy. This young man, no ill will whatsoever, but he has a lot to learn, I think, about governing and a lot to learn about how representation actually works.
Well, maybe a lot to learn about the district because, look, the 7th District has more than a handful of people who require assistance through SNAP benefits and through Head Start and through Veterans Care. And you talk to these folks every day who have, are either in dire straits, or they have, earned these benefits. And I have a feeling they're feeling rather ignored by their representatives in Washington these days.
Well, that's my sense. And yeah, if you're doing the work, you are out talking to as many different groups as you can, regardless of their politics, because it's going to be your job to represent everybody. And when you do that, you learn a lot about what the federal government does that's important, that's critical to supporting just the lives of so many day-to-day people in so many different ways. And if you're not aware of that, it's easy to be an ideologue when you don't understand how this stuff lands at home.
Fred Clark
I heard Mr.
I'm sorry, Fred. I was just going to jump in before I ran out of time here. Fred Clark is a candidate for Congress in the 7th District. Big Democratic wins last week. So, Fred, last question briefly is make the case after what would be a 16-year break. Can a Democratic candidate win in the 7th Congressional District?
Pat, I'm more confident about that answer now than I would have been even 3 months ago. Number one, it's an open seat. So every candidate for this district now has the chance to introduce themselves to the 745,000 people. I'm working hard every day to do that. But the other thing I'm hearing is that there's a whole lot of people whose lives are being affected directly right now by this administration. That's got people's attention. And what we want to do is convert that attention to let's consider who's actually in the best position to represent us and do the work. And I'm feeling better about the prospects in this race than I would have even told you 3 months ago.
And that was already a seat that was crying out for some better representation on behalf of the constituents rather than the guy in the White House. Fred Clark is the Democratic candidate for Congress in the 7th District. Fred, as always, thanks for checking in with us, giving us an update on the race. We'll talk to you again soon.
You bet, Pat. Thank you. Take care.
All right. Yep. Thank you very much. And now coming up in our next hour, we will be talking live to Cam Stevenson from the nation's capital, part of Courier Newsroom, about the deal that might end the shutdown, and also Ruth Conniff of the Wisconsin Examiner. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
For the Maggie Dawn Show, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m.
This portion of the John and Gordy Show is brought to you by Madison Hearing Aids.
James, how are you doing?
Good morning. How are we doing?
Oh, we're good. We're good. It's a nice day. Are you going to be covering any of the Veterans Day things today?
I am, yeah. I'm going down to the county board meeting in a bit.
Chippewa or Eau Claire?
Chippewa.
Okay. Sounds groovy. All right. Thanks for the notes as always. I should go find them. Make sure that I still have them. There they are. Okay. So we got equipment at St. Joe's. We got the Village. Okay. I am going to editorialize when we get to that point. Don't take the bait. You just stick to what the news is. Healthcare Town Hall and another reminder of winter. Okay.
Oh
good.
yeah. They got a cool program in Menominee. It's called Food for Fines.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. We'll get going in just over 2 minutes. I'll see you in a bit.
Sugar River, Sun Prairie, Verona, New Glarus, and catering.
It's the Eco Minute, powered by Clean Wisconsin, your environmental voice since 1970. I'm Amy Barrio. Water use from AI data centers in Wisconsin could be far higher than tech companies claim. That's according to a new analysis from Clean Wisconsin. Turns out all that energy AI data centers need has a big impact on water use in our state. When water use at power plants is accounted for, one AI data center could use more water than a major Wisconsin city. That's even if water recycling technology is used at the data center site itself. The EPA is backing off plans to kill the popular Energy Star program. The initiative that helps consumers find energy-efficient appliances and home upgrades saves Americans about $40 billion each year in energy costs. Earlier this year, the Trump administration announced it would eliminate Energy Star, but now says it has not made a final decision. For a deep dive into Wisconsin's most pressing environmental issues, check out my Defender podcast at cleanwisconsin.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
When severe weather hits and the power goes out, do you have a plan? For reliable power and peace of mind, propane can do that. It only takes about 10 seconds for a propane-powered generator to restore power to your home. So no matter what Mother Nature has in store, you know you're prepared. Learn more at wipga.org. This message is sponsored by your local propane provider and the Wisconsin Propane Education and Research Council.
At Furlough Mattress, Black Friday is going on all month long. Get a free adjustable base upgrade with a mattress set purchase. Every mattress we make is factory direct and custom made locally just for you.
30 seconds until we're back.
It's about 8 minutes until 8 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. It's Veterans Day, and so there will be events throughout Wisconsin, across the country, and James Kelly will be following one for Civic Media. He's in the Civic Media Chippewa Valley newsroom right now, where he will be attending at least one of these events and following plenty of other stories for us as well. James, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Always following more stories, even when it's so cold out. I just don't want to leave the house.
That is so true. You can follow the stories that James is working on through our station in the Chippewa Valley, 93.5 The Tap. That's WCFW HD2, or the Civic Media app, and on the web at thetap.fm. Let's look at some of the stories you've got going on here. Now, again, for folks who aren't aware, that up here in Chippewa Falls and in Eau Claire, two hospitals, Sacred Heart in Eau Claire and St. Joe's up here in Chippewa Falls, abruptly closed over a year and a half ago now. But there are more things happening to either build new facilities and or reuse the existing facilities, and that includes a step forward for work that's going to be done at St. Joseph's Hospital here in Chippewa Falls, James, right?
Yeah, the Eau Claire Community Foundation has awarded a $250,000 grant to the Chippewa Valley Health Cooperative for the purchase of equipment and technology to put at St. Joseph's. The cooperative is temporarily reopening St. Joseph's. It's not a long-term plan for them to do this, but they're just going to kind of try to stem the issue until they can open their new independent community hospital in Lake Hallie. What's interesting about the Eau Claire Community Foundation, these funds actually came from the Sacred Heart Foundation originally when the hospitals closed.
Okay, well, at least they were able to repurpose it in a useful way for what's going to be happening with those facilities next. Next, we're going to be talking about annexation issues, and it's something I've been very familiar with covering around Wisconsin for going on 40 years here. Up here in the Eau Claire area, there was kind of the original fight, if you will, involved Hallie, which was a town between Eau Claire and Chippewa Falls, and eventually incorporated into the village of Lake Hallie. But there are other surrounding townships, both here in the Chippewa Valley and across Wisconsin, that are facing their own debates on, what to do in terms of governance. And that would include here the town of Washington adjoining the city of Eau Claire. What's happening there?
Yeah, the town of Washington has been working towards this petition to incorporate as a village for well over a year now. They needed 50 signatures when they first started circulating the petition last summer. They got around 625 or so. So there is a big appetite in the town for incorporation to protect them from further annexations by the city of Eau Claire and the city of Altoona, mostly for housing developments and utility expansions. So they've officially submitted that petition to the Department of Administration now. It'll be 180 days to review it, approve it, deny it, make changes, whatever it is. What's interesting about that petition, though, is that the city of Eau Claire actually passed their own resolution last year saying that they expect to annex more land for utility expansion, and that resolution has to be included in the review process.
And look, there is a true debate to be had about urban planning in a community. And I completely understand the sentiment that says, well, we want to be our own place, and we want independence, and we don't want the big bad city gobbling us up. But then you end up with essentially a checkerboard of, services or services that you don't get. In Hallie, for example, once they incorporated, they could no longer plug into, the water system in Eau Claire, and they have to build your own waterworks and all the other kinds of things that you need if you're going to grow your community. As opposed to having something where, the city is at the center of it and expands its services and is able to do so at scale. But, if there's one thing we all love, it's a good turf battle as far as whether we're going to be, part of a greater community or if we're just going to essentially build our own little thing and do our own thing. And that's what they're deciding right now in the town of Washington. So James will continue to follow that for us. Healthcare has been on the minds of a lot of folks, especially in this open enrollment period, not just for the Affordable Care Act, but also for people who need to pick new Medicare Advantage plans. So I'm sure any kind of a healthcare event gets a pretty good turnout there, James.
Yeah, there was a pretty good turnout for this town hall at the Ellie Phillips Memorial Public Library last week. It was hosted by Citizen Action of Wisconsin, and a lot of it was just people telling their own individual stories. There's people who spent their whole lives budgeting and saving, and now they're not sure if they're going to be able to keep their homes. There's people who use these programs to pay for services that they need, things that maybe keep themselves or their friends out of nursing homes or institutions when they can't afford to pay for those services themselves. Those are also things that they could end up losing. So there was a lot of anger and a lot of sadness in that meeting last week, and I'm sure that hasn't changed in the last week.
No, not at all. But again, it's good to get information and to be able to collect it. So events like this, you understand why they become rather popular. All right, I suppose you want to do this last one, which is another reminder that summer is over and time to figure out what side of the street you're parking on, this time in Menominee.
Yep, winter parking rules in Menominee. It's the same thing as the city of Eau Claire. Even number days, even number side of the street, odd number days, odd number sides of the street. They start at 2 a.m. to 7 a.m., so it's a little bit later than in Eau Claire. But I think what's interesting about the city of Menominee is they have this program called Foods for Fines, where you can just go to the Menominee Police Department if you get a parking ticket and donate non-perishable foods. And for every can or item of non-perishable food you donate, you get $2 off your ticket.
Wow. Wait a minute.
That's a really good idea.
That's until January 1st. That's not year round. But for right now, that is in effect. So if you do get a parking ticket, you can also feel pretty good about yourself. Go donate some food.
Yes. And I would say, yes, do it in the spirit of helping others. If you get a ticket, don't take it out on people by just bringing in, 30 cans of canned beets. Okay,
yeah.
Let's make it, things that would be truly useful and appreciated by those who have to use our food banks and pantries and things like that. So there you go. Food for Fines. The things you learn from James Kelly. Follow him at 93.5 The Tap and thetap.fm as part of the Civic Media Radio Network. James, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, you as well. And coming up, we will be talking to Ruth Conniff from the Wisconsin Examiner about the election results, the deal to end the government shutdown, and what this means for framing the issues in 2026. I'm Pat Kreitlow on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Columbus, Madison's home for real news and great conversation. A Civic Media station.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. The next step toward reopening the federal government has been taken. ABC senior political correspondent Rachel Scott with more from Capitol Hill.
The Senate officially passing a bill to reopen the government, putting Congress on track to end the longest shutdown in American history. The bill now heads to the House, members scrambling back to Washington after being out of town for more than 50 days. The House will hold its first round of votes Wednesday afternoon.
Air travelers facing future frustration as the FAA continues reducing flights. The FAA saying air traffic controller shortages caused by the government shutdown forced it to act in the name of safety. Some of the season's coldest weather yet is bearing down on the eastern two-thirds of the United States. Arctic air affecting millions of people. On this Veterans Day, President Trump will visit Arlington National Cemetery and lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. A suicide bomber is struck outside the gates of a court in Islamabad, killing 12 people. This is ABC News.
From the Madison Common Council to the state capitol, stay informed with Civic Media's Radio Network news team right here on WMDX and on the Civic Media app. For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Governor Tony Evers is leading a coalition of governors saying they will not return SNAP payments made to recipients during the government shutdown. Last week, judges ruled that the federal government was obligated to continue the SNAP program through the shutdown, and Thursday night, Governor Evers announced that Wisconsinites would start getting their food share benefits loaded onto their cards. Now, the Trump administration is appealing to the Supreme Court and asking states to return the money. But Governor Evers offered a one-word response on social media: no. Almost 700,000 Wisconsinites rely on SNAP. Here in the Badger State, the program's called Food Share. State officials want people to know their money is on their cards and can be used as normal right now, even with court cases in flux. Joanne Krulatz reports.
Retailers and grocery stores play an important role in ensuring Food Share members can access healthy, nutritious food to feed their families. The Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade and Consumer Protection, and the Wisconsin Department of Health Services remind Wisconsin businesses who have signed up for the Food Share program that Food Share recipients have had funding legally loaded onto their cards, and businesses cannot turn away members using Quest cards at registers. Food Share members receive benefits on a Quest card similar to a debit card that allows them to pay for food at any business that has agreed to participate in the program. Current federal guidance states that consumers may continue to redeem the existing balance issued to their Quest card at any authorized retailer. Any Wisconsinite who needs additional food or infant formula for their house or family can reach out to 211 for information and referrals to local services.
That's Joanne Krulatz reporting, and I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
The Eagles beat the Packers. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens from Lambeau Field, where the Eagles beat the Packers 10-7 on Monday Night Football. I asked defensive end Micah Parsons, what would he say to fans after these back-to-back losses at home?
To the fans, they should have hope. It would be different if we're getting blown out in fashions of, this is, in despair, we can't win these type of games. We're very capable of winning these games. We're just not playing to the level of the standard that we set for each other, and we're beating ourselves in fundamentals and technique. And once we do that, we're going to be a really good team. But for right now, we just got to get back to the basics and do what we have to do. But, I wouldn't panic.
Packers center Elton Jenkins carted to the locker room just before the half. X-rays showing he suffered a fractured bone in his lower leg. Badgers basketball tonight. Wisconsin takes on Ball State. Men's hoops inside the Kohl Center. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Construction barrels bloom every spring. So do opinions. WMDX, guiding Madison through life's most predictable surprises.
After a sprinkle or snow shower this morning, we will see the clouds gradually start to break up here through the day today, but it will stay chilly with a high in the low to mid 40s this afternoon. Tonight, mostly clear. We're going to drop into the low 30s. Tomorrow, sunshine returns with a high near 50. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Currently, it's 28.
Hello, this is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio. On our show, we share stories from Turtle Island highlighting the people and issues shaping our communities. From protecting water to treaty rights and preserving languages and traditions, we cover it all. Hear voices like Arvina Martin of Emerge Wisconsin, Dr. Stately, Robert Lilligren, and more. Because Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Native Roots Radio, weeknights at 8 on your local civic media radio station.
The Todd Albaugh Show.
Pat, we've seen this explosion of data centers. How we manage this, the genie's out of the bottle, is going to be really important.
I'm not saying there can't be data centers because we're going to need data. We're going to use AI for whatever purposes, probably just to learn how to play poker better, but I hope cure cancer. But just ask all the questions and don't believe all the hype. Get whatever you can in terms of promises and regulations. Don't let it own you.
The Todd Albaugh Show, weekdays 2 to 4 on your local civic media radio station.
Across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Hey, good morning. Welcome back. Nice to have you here up north. It's a Tuesday morning, November 11th, 2025. Phone lines are open at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842, which we'll welcome your calls here because normally we'd welcome in Cam Stevenson from Courier Newsroom. But, of course, there are a lot of moving pieces going on in Washington, D.C. right now with the end of a government shutdown in sight, potentially. And we'd love to have your thoughts on that as well. Or you can join me and Parker in the pity pool. The Packer pity pool, and talking about a Packers performance, an offensive performance that was offensive, to put it mildly, or non-existent.
Yeah, I just, I was saying earlier about how I've never been on the Matt LaFleur hate train as much. I'm getting on the train. I'm not on the fire LaFleur train, though.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people...
no, he needs to fire himself from play calling.
Yes, that is exactly what it needs to be. Yes. Yeah. And I think that people need to remember, who are you going to get that's better? Like...
As a head coach, you're saying?
Yeah. At the end of the day, he's been very, very good.
Yes,
it doesn't feel like it.
Well, yes, but again, he had a core of healthy and talented players, and now how do you deal with the adversity of players that are lost to injury? Or have simply left the team. It's one thing to take what you've inherited. Now we see where you go from here, facing this challenge, and maybe the play calling thing is a little bit too much. Hard to say, but
certainly could be. It feels like Aaron Rodgers was definitely like masking.
Yes.
LaFleur's play calling abilities for the first couple of years there.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. Let's check and see what's in the mailbag here. Comments on YouTube and Facebook and through our text line. And Tony writes from Ashland, will the Packer receivers actually catch the ball against the Giants? Fair question.
Well, if we throw to our receivers, I was getting a little tired of throwing to the cornerback, Bo Melton. That was an interesting decision.
Yeah. And look, there's a play. I'm no great expert on football plays, but I understand a play called the jet sweep. The Packers actually kind of created and performed it well in the 60s. But when executed properly, it works well. And when they did that on one of their early drives, I'm like, yeah, do more of that. Not these little dink and doink, little screen passes. Do an actual sweep. And then in that same drive, when they had a 4th and 1, the quick count was amazing. I mean, it caught the announcers off guard. Next thing you know, they're snapping the ball, and Love is getting the first down. And I thought, we're actually onto something here, until we weren't. Where once again, we couldn't finish the drives.
Yeah, no, it's really disappointing because we saw a lot of the same thing last week against the Panthers.
Yes.
And now this week, you go against a Giants team that weirdly I think has momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Despite having fired their
just
head coach.
fired their coach. That's what gives them. Sometimes addition by subtraction.
Yeah, I do think that they're more excited than they were before. So.
Yep. Robin Tigerton noted that he watched the Packer game until he fell asleep because
I don't blame you.
It was just stone cold, as he puts it, for the offense. Of course, there were also people that were talking to us about Veterans Day. Alicia notes that free meals and small services one day a year from private companies, that's just not going to cut it. As federal employees, they need to live up to their responsibilities. On the government shutdown deal, where, again, it's just 8 senators on the Democratic side who joined with Republicans. Tony would like to see them primaried, and he notes that all of the senators who caved, with the exception of John Fetterman from Pennsylvania, who's 56, but all of them were in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, although, again, most of the Senate is of that age. But when we talk about passing the generational torch and have people that would, really fight for American values, we don't have enough of that yet in the Senate and need to see more of that happen. Let's see. There was also this very controversial opinion about, the Bucks won yesterday, and congrats to them. Let's see, what was the final score here? They beat the Dallas Mavericks 116-114. Giannis scored 15 of his 30 points in the fourth quarter to come back from a deficit. And then on Wednesday, tomorrow, they play at Charlotte. But then at Friday, they're home versus Charlotte in the NBA Cup. It's so hard to make that work. And we got this very hot take from on the text line from a Luke Mathers, I believe you call it. He says, I don't know, the Bucks game got pretty intense last Friday in those final minutes against Chicago, which was the opening game in the group play for the NBA Cup. He said folks knew that the point differential mattered. So even though the Bucks had the game in the bag with about 2 minutes left, the Bulls wanted to lose by as little as possible while the Bucks tried to run up the score. As a fan of the Bucks, I enjoyed it. Bring on Charlotte.
Pat, did you also just learn that the point differential matters?
I did just learn
okay,
in this very moment that the NBA Cup has a point differential that matters. As Tony says, for the cup. Yes, exactly. So, yeah, yep, there we go. Roger on Facebook notes that we mentioned earlier that Hank Ballard had a version of the twist recorded on this day in 1958, and then later taken to the top of the charts by Chubby Checker, who was just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But Roger corrects the record to say that Hank Ballard himself was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 1990. So there you go. Got that going on. Let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, we talked about it's National Sunday Day on a Tuesday in November.
On a Tuesday, yes.
But Alicia writes in, Parker is my guy. Turtle Sunday with extra pecans. So there's that. Let's see. From Ardith, favorite ice cream is the chocolate shop in Madison. Their Zanzibar chocolate is the best. I've been to the chocolate shop in Madison. I don't know that I've had their Zanzibar chocolate.
No, I've been there once or twice, but very sparingly.
Uh-huh. I mean, I wonder if it's anything like Haagen-Dazs Belgian chocolate, because I once lived at a place with a Haagen-Dazs store. So that was that was really dangerous. Yeah. And boy, that Belgian chocolate with the little flakes, instead of chocolate chips, it's like these little flakes of really dark chocolate in there. Very nice. Okay. Let's see. We talked about the Yellowstone Trail because this is also the anniversary of the creation of the numbered highway system in America. And that early on there was a route called the Yellowstone Trail that would take people from the east into Yellowstone National Park. It would come through Wisconsin, and you can still see it today with big rocks that are painted yellow to mark it. And Alicia says there are a bunch of rocks from the Yellowstone Trail in Greenville. Yeah. I mean, you'll see that pretty much anywhere along the road as well. And let's see, also from Robin Tigerton, a thank you to all the veterans for serving and protecting our country. Tony, also on the notion of, we had a guest from Washington Monthly in our last hour talking about the cesspool that the internet can be sometimes, and that maybe Democrats should be calling it out rather than getting down into the mud. Tony writes, I'm so sick of people blaming the form of communication. Just because you can't effectively communicate there doesn't mean it's going away. Learn how to fight in the environment or get out. That's a very fair point. And it's why I asked our, essentially running against the internet. I think that's a tough row to hoe. I think it's going to be around. So I think you do learn to communicate effectively in there. Alicia is now saying, okay, now I want ice cream. I don't care how much I shiver while eating it. There's a reason that most places like Culver's and others don't close down in the winter. Ice cream's always good. Whenever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. Let me tell you, Pat, it is incredibly warm in Studio A2 here right now, which is wildly different than normal.
Well, I was going to say, normally you come in there, and I remember learning this a couple of times down to Madison, that the furnace doesn't kick in right away. So you walk in, at 5 a.m, and it is really cold, and they set it to come on more for like when the office staff is there. So it comes on a little bit later, but by that time, by the end of the show, Parker's roasting over here.
I start the show in long johns, and by the end of the show, I'm in shorts.
Yep.
It's a very weird experience.
But that's not a lot. I mean, if you want to start a good workplace debate anywhere, you get the debate going on where the temperature should be.
Oh, yeah.
And who gets to be in charge of that. And you work in some offices where somebody's got like one of those little tiny ceramic heaters under their desk, or they've got a fan that's got to be blowing just right. It's one of the things I don't miss about not working in offices anymore.
That's fair. I do believe there are a handful of space heaters in the headquarters here. Used by a couple of different people.
Tony says, I think it's absurd the Madison studio isn't focused around Parker's schedule. Well, yeah.
Right.
Or
Tony.
Look, at least John and Gordy, they're big time radio stars. So let's think of them. I mean, take advantage of your divas.
Yeah. I don't know that there's even vent in that studio, come to think of it.
In Studio 1A1, there's no vent?
Yeah. I don't think there's a vent in there. I think that they
Might
are
be a
at the
design
mercy of
flaw.
the sun in the windows.
Oh my gosh, no. All right. So those are some of the reactions that folks have had about some of the things that we've covered here on the program so far. We certainly did take some time talking about the end of the government shutdown and what people think of that. And then another topic that we've covered today has been Donald Trump's pardons. And that's unfortunate, shall we say, that lost in all the other things, because again, if there's one thing the Trumpers know, it's a flood the zone strategy. Just throw all kinds of stuff out there. So while we're talking about the government shutdown and SNAP benefits being cut off and everything else, Donald Trump just pardoned everybody who tried to help him with his coup to overturn the 2020 election. All of the co-conspirators, all of the fake electors, everybody who went along with his scheme to overturn the presidential election. Now, thankfully, even though Wisconsin's fake electors, like Bob Spindell, who's on the State Elections Commission, and attorneys Kenneth Chesbrough and Jim Trupus, were all just pardoned by Trump, it was all about federal charges, and there aren't any right now. Again, Jack Smith's investigation died when voters decided to put Donald Trump back in, but thankfully at the state level, there are still, however slowly, certain investigations going on, like Chesbrough and Trupus are still facing 11 felony counts here because pardons don't apply to what's happening in our state courts. So Jeff Mandel, who runs Law Forward, the legal group that had brought a civil lawsuit against the Wisconsin Republicans involved, blasted the pardons as sending an unmistakable message that this White House disdains democracy and will assist in word and in deed any effort, no matter how extreme and outrageous, to cling to power regardless of election results. So it led to one comment on Facebook that says, exposing cheating isn't a coup. He took issue with my use of the word coup to describe this, that it was just exposing cheating. Yeah, exposing cheating to overturn an election and to stay in power despite what the voters want, which is a coup. And I still am flabbergasted that we don't recognize it as what it was. Trust me, the history books will. We will talk to Ruth Conniff from the Wisconsin Examiner coming up in 15 minutes. Live from the lake, I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Luke says that the Yellowstone Trail sounds like it's out of the Flintstones.
It does, doesn't it? Yep.
And yeah. I think it sounds like the name of a ice cream.
Let's see here. We got to fit all this in. Yep. Okay. At Up North News, we have a daily newsletter, and we have one on Sundays that I write, Sunday mornings with Pat Kreitlow, with an emphasis on the week's political news. It also includes a question of the week. And this past Sunday, the question that I chose dealt with a bipartisan bill that would legalize marijuana in Wisconsin, at least for medical use. Others, of course, would like to see it legalized for all purposes, including recreational use. Currently, we're in this other category that allows for, CBD oil and things like that to be sold. And then, of course, there are states that continue to make marijuana fully illegal. So I give you all those options in the newsletter and ask you, to what degree should marijuana be legalized, or do you not support legal weed in Wisconsin? And so we're getting some results in on that already. And again, if you want to be one of the first to see our question of the week, sign up for Sunday mornings with Pat Kreitlow over at upnorthnewswi.com. Click subscribe up there in the top banner. All right, we mentioned that the Bucks beat the Dallas Mavericks last night and will be playing at Charlotte tomorrow. Of course, the Packers losing, but they will take on the New York Giants next Sunday at noon. The Badger football team takes on second-ranked Indiana. That will be this Saturday, and coverage will begin at 9 a.m. on several Civic Media radio stations. The Badger men's basketball team will next be in action tonight against Ball State. Coverage begins at 7 o'clock on Civic Media stations in Wisconsin Rapids, Amory, Richland Center, and in Ironwood. The women's basketball team will next host Bowling Green tomorrow evening. The Badger men's hockey team rose in the rankings from 10th in the nation. They're now 7th ranked in the country after upsetting second-ranked Michigan back on Saturday. So the Badger hockey team will host Ohio State on Friday and Saturday evenings. Friday starting at 6:30, Saturday at 5:30 on WFHR in Wisconsin Rapids and WJMS up in Ironwood, Michigan. The Badger women's hockey team still ranked number 1 in the country. They will be at St. Cloud State on Friday night and Saturday afternoon. The Badger women's volleyball team, ranked 11th in the country, will play at Michigan State on Friday night. So there's a look at some of the sports that will be happening all across the Civic Media Radio Network. Head over to civicmedia.us to learn more about the games that will be on near you. And I don't have last Friday's prep football results here in front of me, but there may also be a hometown team of yours that is advancing in the high school playoffs. And if so, you might be able to hear it on your local Civic Media station. There is, Parker, something in the Journal Sentinel that I need to get here on Lake Wissota. And I'm perfectly happy with my pontoon, don't get me wrong, but there's now something called a hot tub boat.
I'm in.
Yeah, and that even though, it's already cold and winter's approaching in Milwaukee, there are some newly launched hot tub boats on the Milwaukee River. Each boat features a tub that's heated to 104 degrees, a back deck for lounging, and a little tiller to leisurely steer yourself along the river. Basically, if you've been in a fishing boat that has a live well, where you just open up this little door, at the bottom, and there's a tank in there that you can fill with water and put your fish in. This is just a much bigger version of that. That up in front, you've just got a hot tub right there at the front of the boat. People are sitting in it, just gazing out in the cold weather. I like this idea because what have I said repeatedly? What's my favorite winter sport? Is it skiing? No. Cross country skiing? No. It's walking out to the hot tub in the middle of winter and back. And I do it in bare feet. That's how tough I am. Wow. So anybody that wants to take the hot tub a bit further and put it in a boat so you can go along a chilly river. Hey, as long as the boat doesn't get iced in, I'm good with it. So bring it on. So there's that story in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Maya Pandy has the story on there that folks might want to check out. And hey, maybe get some ideas. I remember seeing at a Brewers game, I forget where it was. I don't know if it was Three Rivers in Pittsburgh or where, but out on the water, again, instead of just your typical pontoon, they had converted it to a tiki bar.
Oh,
and
yes.
And I believe
it is in Pittsburgh.
And I think, and it might have even been like on the model of the pedal pub where, folks got to pedal and that's how the boat keeps going. And I looked at that a couple of years back and I was like, I wonder if I could start that here. And then I had a neighbor who had an idea for Lake Wissota, wanting to get, again, just a slightly larger boat and do dinner cruises. Because there are plenty of places that do dinner cruises, and you don't need to have a great big boat to do it. You can do it with just a few guests. But he looked into the possibility of having like a dinner cruise boat on there as well. So there's no shortage of ways that you can have fun on the water around here. The only way that I will not have fun on the water is ice fishing. Because again, we've got a hot tub. I think I told you that's my favorite winter sport. I'm not going to go sit on ice and fish.
Would you sit in a hot tub while ice fishing?
Well,
I don't know if that's really possible.
It's we're putting a hot tub on the ice. I think I might have to draw the line somewhere. Now, if it were
I see no issue.
If there were a pier, let's say you made it a pier, not just a dock, but you put a pier, and the hot tub is on the pier, and from there you can cast a line.
Sure.
Okay, but now you catch the fish. Now what? Are you just going to drop the fish in the hot
You're
tub?
going to swim with the fish.
I mean, I've heard of swimming with the sharks, but swimming with the sunnies and the crappies and the walleye, that's a whole different deal. I don't think we thought that one all the way through. So
Anything to get on the water more, Pat.
yes, I will never object to anything that keeps me on the lake a little bit more often. We'll turn our attention back to what happens in the wake of the elections last week, coming up on 2026, and where Democrats need to go here in Wisconsin with Ruth Conniff of the Wisconsin Examiner coming up. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. How is Ruth today?
Good morning. Good.
Good. All right. All right. So that column, that shutdown, and any particular stories that you also want to call attention to from the past few days here?
Well, it's Veterans Day, and Baylor Spears has a piece on our site about
I
the
see that. Yes.
veteran
Okay.
housing back and forth.
Got it. Okay. We'll definitely do that. We've got
And then
Eric's.
Isaiah has a piece today too about, the conditions of confinement issue, which is kind of a poignant interview with a guy who's been through it.
Okay. All right.
But whatever you want.
Oh no, I got all those in front of me. That's plenty to get us going here, and you know the routine. So I'll tuck you back in the waiting room for 4 minutes and see you in a bit.
Okay.
Thanks, Ruth.
3 million Wisconsin homes.
Caitlin Monahan is the director of public policy for Vantage, the company behind the data center in Port Washington. She says they'll be paying their fair share for power.
So We Energies has designed a really innovative tariff structure that ensures that the new large loads will pay the full cost.
Corey Singletary is the director of regulatory affairs for the Citizens Utility Board. He says because there's not much regulation, companies are trying to build these data centers as fast as possible before laws catch up.
Speed to market is a primary, if not the primary, consideration of data center developers.
Some in the legislature are already working to help the laws catch up. Democratic State Senator Jody Haber-Sinekin from Whitefish Bay authored a bill she says creates guardrails for data centers in Wisconsin. Her plan would require prevailing wages for workers and require they use 70% renewable energy at data centers. The bill also aims to increase transparency on their water and energy use. I'm Savannah Tomei-Olson, 92.7 WMDX News.
From the Capitol to your kitchen table, Madison's biggest stories live right here on 92.7 WMDX.
After a sprinkle or snow shower this morning, we will see the clouds gradually start to break up here through the day today, but it will stay chilly with a high in the low to mid 40s this afternoon. Tonight, mostly clear. We're going to drop into the low 30s. Tomorrow, sunshine returns with a high near 50. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Currently, it's 28.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Doug Prey, folks, he's a native Wisconsinite and an award-winning filmmaker. Doug, I noticed you received a special thanks for a movie called I Am a Sex Addict. What exactly were they thanking you for? It's a pretty vague category, right?
Kaveh Zahidi, he's a filmmaker in New York. I must have been on his crew about 25 years ago or something.
Oh, that's great.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba. Weeknights from 6 till 8 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app.
As veterans, we're no strangers to helping others.
That's what we were taught, service before self.
But we do have one question for the veterans listening.
When was the last time you reached out for help?
If you or someone you know needs resources, whether it's for stress, finances, employment, or mental health, don't wait. Reach out.
Find more information at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Pete Schwaba.
On the next Nightlight, I welcome actress Katie Leclerc, star of A Cherry Pie Christmas, filmed in Door County, and Green Bay-based director Craig Knitt. Let's light it up.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba. Weeknights from 6 till 8.
You know what they got? They got a promise.
We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Nice to have you back at 8:35 on a Tuesday morning, November 11th, Veterans Day. And joined now by Ruth Conniff of the Wisconsin Examiner. A lot to be said about last week's election results. And, of course, that includes a column from her that says Tuesday's Democratic sweep is a wake-up call for Wisconsin. You can read it at wisconsinexaminer.com. Of course, since that time, we've also had the drama about the potential end to the government shutdown and so much more that you can again follow at wisconsinexaminer.com. And Ruth Conniff is here now. Ruth, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Very well, thanks.
How did it feel? I've asked a couple of other guests this, that how did it feel to have the aftermath of the election and everybody's writing their pieces and other people are still taking their victory laps, and then somebody throws sand in the gears and 8 Democrats decide to say, we're done. We can't continue holding out for, health care to be more affordable. And so that's that. Was it just the dragging the needle across the record and bringing everything to a halt? Or is this just a minor skip in the record and Democrats can get back on message on how to move forward?
Well, I mean, definitely the column that you asked me to talk about today has been overrun by events because, I'm writing about Democratic euphoria and that, it's such a clear message from voters that they do not like what's happening in the country in these first 6 months of Trump 2, and that they really want to see an opposition. And then the Democrats cave. So, the whole euphoria train is gone. And Ken Martin, I did a call. I was on a call listening to Ken Martin, the DNC chair. When I wrote this column, I was talking about how the Democrats seem to have found their footing and they felt so, emboldened by these election results. And he's, of course, now really angry at members of his own party in the Senate for folding their tent on the shutdown and not getting anything, really. I mean, I think one interview, sort of man on the street interview in an airport with somebody whose flight was delayed said, what was the point of all this? And I think it's a fair question. It's not clear that anything at all came out of it. So it's definitely not a great sign for the Democrats. They are not doing what it looked like they were doing right after the election and getting themselves together and really responding to voters' desire to see something better than the chaos and destruction and uncertainty of the Trump administration. So, it's unfortunate. And also, like, we all have to continue to live in this country, and we have to figure out what's going to happen. And a lot of people are not going to be able to afford to have health care. I don't think that's very promising that Thune has promised to listen to the case for extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits, because they can listen for 5 minutes and shut it down. And that seems, every message out of the Republican Party and Trump is that that's what they plan to do. So, it's a mixed bag.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, we're in Wisconsin, the home of the special sessions that gavel in and gavel out. Exactly. So you can see how much attention, they pay to the important issues. And it also, while this is a little inside baseball for Democrats, the sense is like, why is there always that person? It was Joe Lieberman when they were passing the Affordable Care Act. Then it was Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema to a degree. Now it's Fetterman from Pennsylvania. They're always a caucus like that is only as strong as their weakest link. Mm-hmm. And when you have some links like that, it makes it very tough to have progress and to stay united. But I think staying united as the Democratic caucus, well, frankly, was always going to be a bit of a tall order.
I think one of the pieces of analysis that I read right after the election that was most interesting to me was that, we've seen Donald Trump pressure institutions into caving one after another, universities, major law firms. We've got, this bully in the White House, and the Republicans who are in lockstep behind him, even though he's doing so much damage to those Republicans' very constituents. So you see institutions that cave because they're afraid of losing funding or they're afraid of losing political power. But when you go to the voters, this great swath of America who voted last Tuesday, they're not being bullied like that. They're not saying, oh, okay, we should vote for the Republican because then maybe Trump won't be mad at us and then maybe, our state won't lose funding. They're saying, no, we need a new direction. We need to turn around. And I think there is something very hopeful in that the public in general is not buying it and is not, we haven't slipped so far that people are so cowed and terrified that they're giving up on their own interests and just hoping to minimize the damage.
Yeah, you note in your column, and we're talking to Ruth Conniff from the Wisconsin Examiner and her column about last Tuesday's election results, and you point out the ways that, Derek Van Orden and Tom Tiffany and Brian Stile and Ron Johnson, the way that they have essentially stood in the way of making healthcare more affordable. Ron Johnson and others have essentially cheered on a government shutdown. So again, you see the disconnect where voters' values are, and I always hate the word messaging, but it seems to fit here. It's how Democrats engage in messaging about what they're for, but then it's undermined by refusing to fight for it in this particular example.
Well, to be fair, Democrats are in a bad situation here. I mean, look at Tim Kaine in Virginia. It was a bit of a surprise that he joined that group of people who just said, enough, we can't have the shutdown, even if we don't get anything for it after the longest shutdown in history. But he's got so many federal workers in his district, and people are really up against it. This is a very painful situation for people who haven't been paid, who can't get food assistance, who may never be rehired, who are, they're being threatened, the furloughed workers, with never getting back pay. And so that was really at the heart of the deal, I think, for Kaine and for other Democrats who just said, the people in my district can't take any more pain. And the problem for the Democrats is they actually care. Tim Kaine actually cares. Whereas Trump doesn't care. He's going to court to try to make sure that children do not get food assistance in the month of November. So, you're in a difficult position when you don't have any leverage against people who truly don't care how much damage and destruction happens.
Yeah, we're talking to Ruth Conniff from the Wisconsin Examiner, and in her column, she writes how various Democratic leaders eagerly declared that theirs is the party of affordability. Ruth writes, it doesn't take a political genius to see the vulnerability in the wretched excesses of the Trump administration, forcing children to go hungry while throwing a lavish Great Gatsby party at Mar-a-Lago and building a massive gilded ballroom at the White House. If nothing else, Democrats are the populist alternative by default. but we've learned, if nothing else, you can be the populist alternative by default, but it doesn't mean anything if people don't show up for you on election day. Now, they did last week in a big way. The question becomes, will that be as effective, just under a year from now when they do these midterms again? But are you saying that basically Dems need to continue to just take that affordability flag and run with it?
Yes, and I think, what we see in the shutdown drama is just a failure of leadership. Because even if it's understandable that people can't take any more pain, it's just, you don't start the longest shutdown in history. You don't dig in your heels and say, no, we have this bottom line issue and we're not going to give ground, and then give ground after 41 days. I mean, this is not the master of the Senate, the great Robert Caro book about Johnson. The Democrats need some strategy and some leadership and some idea of where they're going. And that's why you see people like our Congressman Mark Pocan calling for Schumer's ouster, because even though Schumer wasn't with that group that voted with the Republicans, he is in charge of leading the Senate. And where's the leadership here?
Yeah, there's a lot of asking where's the leadership and saying things about Chuck that we can't say on the radio here. Also at the Wisconsin Examiner, Baylor Spears has a story out for Veterans Day, noting that on Veterans Day, Wisconsin is serving fewer homeless vets, and lawmakers are at an impasse on support. I have to admit, Ruth, this one has always been a bit of a mystery to me. It just feels to me like these Republican lawmakers got caught flat-footed, realizing they zeroed out something, forgot to put the money back in, but instead of just owning up to it, are looking for any way to try to blame Tony Evers because he didn't raid this pot of money to support homeless veterans or something else. And I feel like it shouldn't have taken this long to come together and find a way to fund these programs in Chippewa Falls and elsewhere.
And they haven't figured it out either. I mean, I think Baylor does a really nice job of laying out what happened. It's a complex issue, and she lays it out very simply. Right. Tony Evers, and the Veterans Administration asked for money to keep these programs going. The Republicans said no. They zeroed out that money in the state budget. And as a result, they were repeatedly warned, by their own staff and by the administration that this meant that these programs were going to close. And in fact, we no longer have these housing and recovery programs in Green Bay and Chippewa Falls. And the Republicans were, because veterans issues are one of those issues where they feel like they should be on the right side or want people to think they're on the right side. They insisted, no, Evers could have just found the money elsewhere and funded it all along. So Baylor explains and kind of dives into and reports on why that's not the case, that the legislature had to appropriate the funds and refused to do so. And so now, instead of going back and appropriating the funds, which is hard because they have to reopen facilities that are now closed, they're trying to do something completely new and invent a whole new nonprofit structure to fund these programs in the future. And that money is not going to go to open those facilities because the only eligible nonprofits are in Dane County and Milwaukee County. So we're not serving these veterans anymore. Some of them have been moved out of state. Some of them have gone to other facilities, but it's really a shame. It's really, it's lousy. And I think this is an example of, it's fine to talk about budget cutting, but when it really happens to people and when you are hurting homeless veterans, that's where the rubber hits the road. And the Republicans kind of don't want to admit that is in fact the consequence of the budget cutting.
Right. Again, don't want to serve. Just a couple minutes left, and I wanted to hit one other article that's up here by Isaiah Holmes about bills that are aimed to address inhumane conditions in Wisconsin prisons and jails. Tell us more about his story.
Yeah, Isaiah went to a press conference yesterday in front of the Milwaukee courthouse talking about the difficulty that state legislators had in getting into the Milwaukee jail, where there have been some deaths. There have been some reports of inhumane conditions. And this is an issue in Wisconsin that he's been covering for years now. And it's a really serious situation. We incarcerate a lot of people in this state. We have massive disproportionate confinement of minorities in this state. And the conditions that people are living in are not good. So there's a bill package in the state legislature to try to address that and to make certain guarantees of humane treatment. And he has a very poignant interview with somebody who's been through the system and has suffered from the kinds of conditions that we're maintaining here.
Yeah, I do have time for one more quick one, and that is just to, I'm sure it's a story you're following with Marathon County and the Sheriff's Department cooperating with ICE. That is an area with, a part of the state with so many immigrant laborers on Wisconsin's dairy farms. It is clearly a controversial subject up there that I'm quite certain you are following as somebody who's covered that issue and written an excellent book about it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well, for sure, we're covering this all around the state, the ICE cooperation agreements, some of which have been rescinded after they became public. And, there is, I think, just a sense of not knowing exactly what our sheriff department's doing and how they're empowered to act as agents of federal law enforcement. And it's very disturbing because we're seeing people who are grabbed off the street, some of whom turn out to be U.S. citizens. And, no due process. We've interviewed immigration attorneys who can't keep track of their clients because they're being very quickly shuttled out of state. Their family members can't find them. It's a real concern.
It is, and I know that it's one you're following. Again, that's at wisconsinexaminer.com. Ruth Conniff, thank you so much for your time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, great to see you, Pat.
All right. We will wrap things up with some final news and notes from Lake Wissota right after this. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Tomorrow on the program, Up North News newsletter editor Ellie Bordeaux will be along to tell us what she's been working on, and we'll talk to Earl Ingram from the What's Going On with Earl Ingram podcast. Learn more over at civicmedia.us about what Earl is up to. We asked earlier in the day, this is, as Parker Olson, producer extraordinaire, tells us, this is National Sunday Day on this Tuesday. And I think the results are in, and apparently Turtle Sunday. That's the one that people like most. So, Parker, congratulations. You're on the winning team once again.
I'm the winner.
You go get yourself a Turtle Sunday later today as a result. So
I'd have to.
I think you should. I think it's a good idea. So that's the question we asked today. And of course, there's also a question of the week from our Sunday morning newsletter. And we are asking folks, what is your view on whether Wisconsin should have legal pot or not for recreational use or medicinal purposes. So again, you can use the comment sections, or you can subscribe to our newsletter at upnorthnewswi.com. All right, it's time to play some show and tell with Parker. I have not told him that this was coming. I have a furnace that is not working exactly as it should, and I need to look at the manual. And, before I don't want to call in, an expensive repair tech if it's something relatively simple.
Well,
so I went to go,
Midwestern.
Yeah, I went to go looking for it in the place where one goes. And that would be the box where you throw all of your, manuals and receipts and warranty information. And it is,
and in there, you found the instructions for a printer that actually you haven't owned for 20 years.
Funny that you should say that, because here's a representative sample of what all was in the box. Here's a manual for Windows 98. It includes a receipt for a computer I got from Gateway. I don't remember the last time Gateway did computers. It's been a while.
No.
There's as a reporter, I would sometimes be out in the field and I would use a tape recorder, cassette tape recorder. So I still have the manual for this cassette tape recorder that I would use to go out onto news stories and record folks. I don't know where that is. It's so long
How long has the tape recorder been gone?
Oh, at least 20 years. Here's a Casio keyboard. We had a Casio keyboard for a while. It was one of those, synthesizer thingies.
Sure.
I don't play piano. I don't know. I've got vacuum
manual. You can learn.
I've got vacuum cleaners from so long ago. I've got furniture. How to assemble things in case you need the parts. I've got here's one from a Norelco electric razor. Here's one from a Remington electric razor. I have not used an electric razor in at least 20 years. I have cordless phones that we, again, haven't used in forever. Cordless phones, I mean, that was the latest and the greatest technology until the cell phone came along. Here's a manual for a cellular phone the size of a brick.
Guys,
one of the original cell phones.
I want our listeners to know that he held up a manual that said cellular
pocket telephone. Yes. It doesn't even say the brand name of it on there.
I mean, how many brands were there? Did they need to specify back then?
There were a lot of toys because I raised two girls. So here's a manual for twirling ballerina Barbie.
Of course.
Here's one for singing Ariel because we had a doll that could swim in the tub with them and sing until it started because they shouldn't be putting toys in the bathtub.
It's hard to sing underwater.
Coffee makers that I haven't had in forever. This is a tent that I thought we still had till one of the daughters said, "Oh no, I brought that with me to Idaho some time back."
Oh.
If you are in the market for a manual for a John Deere push mower, I got the manual for it. I haven't had the manual in forever. And I've got one more. This is like a family heirloom. This is from a place called Groundwater Waterbeds. This is the receipt for our first purchase as a married couple, which was a bed, and waterbeds were all the rage. And this is from July 31st of 1987. And it is a waterbed that we paid $998.48 for?
Okay, my parents, I'm pretty sure, also had a waterbed at
Oh,
some point.
everybody did at some point in the 70s and 80s, yes.
I'm not positive if it was in the basement or what.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a story of someone laying on that bed and getting absolutely frozen.
Oh, yeah, it would
because the
happen.
water
Yes. You could frozen, or you could boil like a frog. Because the heater on these things, and for those young enough, it's a big bladder. It's a big water balloon, essentially. Sure. And then you had special sheets that went over it so that they wouldn't keep falling off. And it was actually, when it was at the right temperature, it was actually really nice. You could get something that was really wavy or not very wavy at all. But if it malfunctioned, you could be frozen, or if somebody turned it up too high, you couldn't sleep in there because you were boiling. And of course, a couple of different times, Sherry would drop an earring and it would fall in between, and suddenly there'd be a little leak that had to be patched up on the fly. So we had that.
Why is my butt wet? Did I pee myself again?
Last but not least, do you remember me telling the story about at my first radio job in Rice Lake? I entered and won a VCR that they were giving away, which I probably should not have entered. I found the manual for that. So here's the Fisher VCR. But in a moment of vindication, it occurs to me that about 6 years later, it wasn't working. And so I found the receipt, the repair receipt. I did have to spend $87.31 to get the VCR fixed. So there was a price to be paid. There's no such thing as a free lunch, or in this case, a free VCR.
Wow.
I have none of these things anymore, but I got the manuals. And by the way, I'm still looking for the furnace manual. It's around here someplace. Parker, thank you. Have a great day. Looking forward to tomorrow and having you all back here as well. Thanks to all of our guests. I'm Pat Kreitlow from Up North News, part of Courier Newsroom, a pro-democracy news network. Enjoy your Tuesday. We'll see you bright and early back here tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. here up north.